couldn't find a way to hook it up.
The Connor Happer Show, weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7.
Turning breezy and milder Tuesday after a cold start. Expect sunshine in the morning with more afternoon cloud cover. Southeast winds gusting 15 to 25 miles per hour. Highs in the low 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Plum Right Time Saving Traffic Center. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's a quiet start to this morning in the Omaha Metro. There's no accidents or delays to report. You might encounter slow goings in the morning around I-680 on the entrance ramp to the westbound Dodge Expressway. The same thing could be said over on westbound I-480 as there's road construction between I-29 through the Missouri River Bridge. But like I said before, everything is smooth sailing for the moment, but if that changes, I'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the morning once traffic starts picking up. Be sure to buckle up, drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza.
Not your typical restaurant, not your typical place.
Romeo's,
not your typical restaurant, for your not your typical taste.
Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza.
Not your typical restaurant.
Hi, I'm Vasily Sakas, your local mortgage expert at Lincoln Federal Savings Bank. With nearly 20 years of experience, I'm dedicated to providing a seamless home buying experience. Whether you're purchasing your first home, refinancing, or upgrading, I'm here to guide you with personalized service for many borrower types, including VA and FHA. Your first step is pre-qualification, knowing exactly what you can afford before you start shopping. Call me, Vasily Sakas, at 402-415-9249 or visit lincolnfed.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Out here on Nebraska's calm, welcoming waters, fishing is a breeze. It's the sweet spot where solo anglers find quiet before the catch, families reel in memories, and first-timers discover what makes fishing so special. From the Panhandle to the Platte, the best fishing happens here, beneath Nebraska skies. Get started at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association in this station.
Riding season is here, and it's time to trade in and trade up. Or, if you ain't riding it, Luss Hills Harley-Davidson is buying it. Sell your Harley-Davidson today. Luss Hills Harley-Davidson. Rise up and ride on.
The spring yard cleanup season is here. Lanahaw produces Omaha's finest mulch. The best colors, best value, and the best quality. There is a difference. Have us deliver or stop by for convenient on-site loading. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw, 192nd and Center.
It's official. You're a good guy. You take out the garbage, you smoke a killer rack of ribs, and you always make sure the lawn is mowed. And now, it's easier than ever to take your good guy game to the next level by signing up to be an organ donor. Good guys save lives. And as a registered organ donor, one day you could save up to 8 lives. Get the facts and sign up today at goodguysavelives.com.
Deciding on a college with your high school senior can be a little overwhelming for parents. But applying for money to pay for it is simple. FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is now easier than ever with fewer questions and faster fill-out times. If you have a high school senior, now is the time to apply for thousands of dollars for classes, books, and housing. Get started, Nebraska, at dothefafsa.org. Sponsored by Education Quest Foundation. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When I heard the words, "you have breast cancer," I said, I have no idea what I'm going to do. My OBGYN called me and said, I know exactly what we're going to do, which led me to Nebraska Cancer Specialists. From day one, I felt that I was at the right place. There were some pretty rough times, but together we are stronger and they are there for you. You do not feel that you are alone.
NebraskaCancer.com.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like.
All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. The college basketball season is officially over. One shining moment last night should have started with the ball is tipped, and it should have ended with the ball is bouncing. As Florida defeats Houston to win the national title in a crazy game, and a worse collapse than the Duke collapse against Houston. Houston completely collapsed in that game. At the end of the game, bad possessions, and maybe, I'm just going to say it, the worst last possession in the history of the national championship game.
I don't know what movie to compare it to, but that was a classic. Wow, this is an incredible movie. I'm so exciting. This is riveting. I'm having an incredible moment. And then it ends and you go, really?
Yeah,
really? Like that? It ends like that?
It was, that's going to be a tough one. And you know, kudos to Florida, because they found a way when things were going south to win that game.
Yeah.
And we'll have plenty of discussions about this Florida team. But from the Houston standpoint, like, think about that final possession, which there were things that Florida did well. Like Clayton recognized they were going to run an elevator screen and they were slow getting to it, so he broke it up. It's also ironic that the game ends with a Florida player diving on the floor for a loose ball, which is like Houston's MO.
Yeah. Great point.
But look
at
any
city that's used to choking.
Well, look at like the last, turnover, the last couple of possessions where their flaws on the way they're built offensively came back to get them. But good on Florida for hanging in there, because they were essentially playing a road game. When Houston was going, man, it felt like the Alamo Dome. You were playing at Hofheinz Pavilion in Houston, Texas. But Florida hung in there. They didn't panic.
No.
Clayton didn't have it going, and then all of a sudden he got going. They got contributions for everybody. It it will finish terrible last possession for the game to end that way. And I feel bad for Sharp because he's one of the fam. I feel bad for Calvin Sampson. But it does go down as one of the best Final Fours of all time. And I don't know that you could debate that.
I don't know if you could. I mean, this is.
They were going to
I don't know what could top the 3 games that we had. The way they ended, the who was playing, all of the things that were involved.
What was incredible, too, about those 3 games is that it was truly 120 minutes of competitive basketball. There was really no point where, this is kind of like a blowout. Like every minute of that game, those teams were competitive. You knew that, hey, at any moment they can go on an 8-0 run. Any moment this team can come back. Any moment the other team they're playing could go and absolutely blow this game out of the water. That never happened. Houston scored 3 points in the last 4 minutes of the game. I mean, it was
Where did that happen on Saturday?
Well, isn't this funny? We didn't have Cinderellas, right? We didn't have the 15 seed or the 14 seed, but this was a tournament of collapses, essentially. Arkansas collapses to Texas Tech. Okay. Texas Tech collapses to Florida. Duke collapses to Houston. And then it all ended in the final game of the season. Houston collapsed essentially against Florida again. I mean, it happens twice to the Gators where, the first time I think they went on a run against Tech. I mean, they hit the shots they needed to hit in order to beat them. That was a little different. Houston, though, on the other hand, I mean, they fumbled that game away. But it was really interesting. I mean, to have basically in a 14-day span, we saw 4 different incredibly competitive games where you thought the outcome was going to be one way with 5 minutes left to go, and it completely turned on its head. But I mean,
what the all 3 games in San Antonio, the team that was trailing at halftime won. Yeah, is that right?
I know. Florida was trailing by 9 against Auburn, and then Houston was trailing. I think they were down by 7 against Duke, and then Florida was trailing yesterday. That's a great observation. You're absolutely right. I mean, this is Florida at the end of the day. I think early on in the game, they were really worried about having Houston settle into their defense. They didn't want to go slow. They didn't want Houston to lock them up. I mean, and you saw it throughout the game. Well, Florida was able to get the ball in the paint, but anytime they did, there were 3 Houston players right on them, suffocating them. It was hard for them to get up and get a layup. Florida was going way too fast. They were trying to push the ball down the court. They weren't getting properly into their offense. Walter Clayton Jr. didn't have a good game overall, but he picked it up at the end. But especially in that first half, he did not look good. But their defense, and they've been a great defensive team all season long, even heading back into SEC play. That's what kept them in the game. Their ability to lock down the paint, their size, and they did a great job rebounding the ball as well against this Houston team. And so they were, like you said, hanging around the entire time. They made some adjustments, and then Houston they fell apart.
See, I think this is the way to go about things. Like you look at the 3 games and a couple of the Florida games that you referenced, is sometimes you wait for the other team to collapse.
Yeah.
Like you wait for them to make a mistake, because look at Houston in this. And everybody, just think about this for a moment. And I feel bad for Calvin Sampson. I have great admiration for him. He's on the back 9. He's 69. He has been a lifer. He has overcome a lot of things. He would have been the first guy to win a national championship yesterday that came off a show cause. I mean, think about that. Think about the coaching life that Calvin Sampson has had. And there is no guarantee in the basketball life that you're going to get back to that moment. Okay, there's absolutely no guarantee. Try telling Wisconsin. Remember in 2015?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a very likable Wisconsin team. That was Kaminsky. They haven't been back. Talk about 19 Texas Tech. Okay, they were right on the doorstep. Haven't been back. Gonzaga, has the new age of college basketball past Gonzaga. You think about those teams that got that close and weren't able to close the deal. But sometimes when you're playing somebody and, you're both extremely talented and both teams were, I think it's better to sit back and wait for somebody to collapse, because you know their tendencies and you know their weaknesses. And if you have some resiliency and you hang in there, sometimes it's going to be handed to you. We already know Houston is limited offensively. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're bully ball. They get after it. They throw the ball up on the glass and they play volleyball. Okay. And so you have to put up with that. And not everybody in college basketball is built that way to handle Houston because they're rugged. Florida sat back and waited for Houston to hand them the basketball game because what Houston started to do on offense was they ran the same ISO play over and over and over, and Florida changed their pick and roll coverage. And they were able to put Houston in a very uncomfortable spot and then force Houston all of a sudden, do I have to shoot a mid-range? What am I doing? And now there's Houston of turning the basketball over, trying to do too much like you were alluding to, like dribble. And you go from Houston had 3 turnovers in the first half, and they had 4 in the last minute 21. So I think then sometimes you sit back and you let somebody hand you the game. That's kind of like the Nebraska football reference, isn't it? I know I don't want Nebraska football to catch a stray here, but there's a lot of teams that play Nebraska that are like, you know what? They're good, but at some point they're going to hand us the game or they're going to open the door for us because that's what they do. And Houston isn't known for that, but sometimes when you're built like Florida and you can overcome some things, you just kind of wait, and when somebody hands you an opportunity, you take advantage of it. And I kind of thought that's what Houston did last night, but that doesn't push aside. That was an awful collapse by Houston and just a terrible possession at the end where, I mean, you're Houston, you're Calvin Sampson, you're Sharp, you're going to have to live with that forever. And that'd be tough. That's really tough.
I want to give credit to Clayton. And I think it's a great reflection of the culture of this Florida Gator team, right? Where he was not good yesterday, but he made that final big play.
You know where he was? You know where he was good? You know where he was? Where he was good? So he's kind of played himself. I don't know. You want to compare to like the Kemba Walker run of guys that elevate their status. I'm sure he's a mid to late first round guy now.
26th overall is what I saw yesterday.
So he has jumped into that.
Yeah.
His defense usually is not a strong point. His defense, when his offense was going south and he couldn't get any looks, wouldn't you hate to be at the top of the scouting report on a Kelvin Sampson scout?
Oh, my Lord.
I mean,
Forget about it.
They eat
but
you
Will
up.
Richard.
He kept him in the game in the first half. But when Clayton wasn't getting shots and not scoring points, but getting shots, period, I thought his defense was really good. And you saw there kind of at the end that he solidified it with what he did on that last possession where they were going to run the elevator screen and they were going to have Sharp take the shot. I still don't know why Cryer didn't. But
another thing, too, and you talked about waiting teams to collapse in the turnovers. Like, that was the key to those 2 runs. So it was an 8-3 run at the end of the game, and then I think it was an 8-0 run in the middle of the game to close the gap when they were down 12. It came off of turnovers, and that 8-0 run in the middle of the second half where they go ahead, they blitz right on that pick and roll, they go ahead, they get the steal, they get a dunk on the other end, then there's a timeout. Like, that was the key for Florida of, hey, let's play good defense, and then taking advantage of the mistakes. And it's like, it's great to get steals and it's great to get turnovers, but it's points off of turnovers, right? You got to actually take those turnovers and take those opportunities and turn them into something. And that's what Florida did yesterday. And that's just a championship team. But I go back to Kelvin Sampson and his post-game presser, and it was a sad one. I mean, and obviously, it's not going to be a happy one, right? I mean, he's not
guys.
He's not
guys. How about them Cougs?
I mean, this is the epitome of it all. This quote right here goes, "There's a lot of teams that aren't built to win 6 games in a row. This team was."
Yeah, and they were.
And it's just like, it's heartbreaking to hear that quote from a coach because he gets it. Like, he understands that.
You never know you're going to get back.
It's rare to have a team that can do it. It's rare to have a squad where you're like, all right, this is it. Because I'm sure there are coaches who kind of know going into the tournament, hey, this is a good team, but a lot is going to have to break right in order for us to be the national champion. This was a team that it wasn't the case at all, and they played like a championship team up until 4 minutes to go in the game, and Florida took it. And shout out Florida and shout out Todd Golden for the job that he's done.
How about his year?
Oh my God!
How about hey, he's sliding into people's DMs. I mean, he's they got a Title IX investigation against him to begin the year, and then he's cleared of all of that, and he's one of the up and comers in college basketball under 40, and he wins a national title. But there is, we kind of, I guess, jokingly or I don't know what you want to call it, talking about age last week, coaches. You do think like. You along the way, like I think the best team in college basketball won the national championship last night. I don't think you could say, well, Florida, they went 5-0 against teams that were in the top 5 of the AP 25 this year.
Jeez.
Okay, 5-0. And they also are the first national champion to fail to cover the spread in their first 2 games. So along the way, you're good, but you also need some luck.
Yeah.
You need some fortune. And I think when you look at a run, when you're built for a program, your expectation is to make it to at least the second weekend. It'd be nice to go to the Final Four. You have the opportunity. Every time you start the season, you got a chance to go to the Final Four because of who you are and the way you're built. But there are things that along the way that you need a little bit of luck.
Mhm.
Okay? Last year, Houston had a really good team. What happened? They suffered a major injury in a game against Duke. Season over.
Yeah.
They had a really, really good team this year. I mean, they would have if they would have knocked off Florida, held on to the lead and knocked off Florida, they would have had one of the greatest runs in the history of the college basketball tournament of looking at who they beat.
Sure.
So I think there's one thing with Calvin Sampson last night is you are 69 and you're probably thinking in your head, okay, it's a grind. I mean, I think Houston practices are 3 hours of running suicides and beating the crap out of each other. And Houston practices probably they make the games easier because I bet the practices are really hard. But it's a grind. And when you play that style and you and that's what you live with, it's a grind. And I'm thinking he's going, okay, if we get this is the prime opportunity for me to hand it over to my son.
Yes.
And now we go out this way, and I don't want to go out this way. I'm sure there's all kinds of emotions that are going on, but think about the emotions of this, guys. And Jimmy, you root for a team that has been on the reg playing in games like this. Can you imagine a team that doesn't normally make it that far, whether you're Creighton, whether you're Nebraska, and that's the way you lose a game? Can you?
No. No.
To be honest, to be totally honest, if that was Nebraska playing in the national championship last night, there'd be no way I'd be in here today. There'd be
because you wouldn't have gone to sleep.
No. I would have pulled the covers over my head. There's no way that you would have been able to just wrap your arms around that and get up the next morning and go, okay, it's Tuesday. You'd been like,
you can't function. You can't move.
Yeah.
You don't want to roll out of bed.
I always joke about the Ray Allen night.
Well,
yeah.
Here, another thing is too, though, there are some times in sports where you lose a championship, whether it be a conference championship or you lose in the final game, and you go, you know what? We're young, we're exciting, we got a lot of guys coming back. Hey, we weren't really supposed to be here. Next year's the year. I think back to Nebraska volleyball 2 seasons ago when they lose in the final against Texas, right? You're sad about that loss, but you're like, you know what? With the players that we have and how young they are and the people that we're returning, the coach that we have, we are destined to come back here. We can win it. We can win it next year. I'm excited for next season. That was not what occurred yesterday in Houston. What occurred yesterday was, man, this was it. Man, this was the team. Man, this was the moment. Man, this was the game.
Yes, and I think it's even more than that. It ended like that on that possession. Okay?
Yeah.
You had a jump.
You're down 2.
You had a jump fake. You drop the ball. You can't pick it up, but nobody else comes to help. And the game ends with a Florida player diving on the floor. That's regardless of, hey, we lost and we gave it to him with 4 turnovers in the last minute 21. That's the final play. That is the final play, how you will be remembered forever. Unfortunately, that's how sports is. Sometimes games don't come down to one play. I mean, you could make a case. What did Houston lose by 2, right, guys?
Yeah.
Remember that goaltending call in the first half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great call.
So, I'm under the belief that games don't come down to one play. It's a series of plays, but you're remembered for one play.
Yeah.
Regardless if you had an incredible season like Houston did, they will be remembered for one of the worst last possessions of a national championship game in the history of college basketball. Man, I don't know how long it takes you to get over that one. I just don't think you do. I just don't think you do. Because that was, I don't know why the ball.
Why don't we go to the basket?
Cryer should have had the ball. Here's the thing. You like to get up on the window, okay? Even if you miss, you crash the glass. And also, look they had a great amount of time left.
They had 19 seconds left.
It's not like they had like 2 or 3 seconds left.
No.
So there was just all kinds of confusion on that. And
You have to live with it, and the ball was bouncing after it was tipped.
I don't, and look, I'm not going to be the guy who's like in a Monday morning quarterback, Kelvin Sampson, and say,
Tuesday.
why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? But you would think with 19.7 seconds left, you're going to get that ball over the tie line as quickly as you possibly can. You're going to run one quick action where you're going to get downhill, sprinting toward the basket, and you're hoping that you're going to get a layup, or you're going to be able to kick it out, or you get fouled and you go to the free throw line and you shoot 2 shots, right? And if you get to the basket and you miss the shot, all right, hey, we're going to foul right away. We're going to have 11 seconds left, and we're going to see if they can make their free throws, right? And like also too, Houston is incredible at a full court press as well. So the idea could be, hey, let's go and get a basket and we're going to press them, because they've done it now twice this year with, obviously Duke stealing the ball, having the big comeback in the Final Four. But what they did to Duke, they did the exact same thing in January to Kansas, where they were down by 6 to Kansas, and they made that three-pointer. Preston made another three-pointer, ended up winning in overtime. They know that they can execute in those late-game situations. I'm just shocked.
Well, Florida did okay. So the part you mentioned, I'm in absolute agreement. They should have gone quicker.
Way quicker.
And I would have want the ball in the hands of Cryer. Give credit to Florida. Florida blew up that play.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were going to run an elevator screen at the top of the key, and Florida hedged on some things. And so Houston got a little bit confused, but it took them forever to set up that play.
Yeah.
Again, go quick, and even if you miss, you at least get it up on the glass, and then you just crash the hell out of the glass and find a way to get a rebound. So
and that's their bread and butter.
But it was, like, Houston had a rough night. Another thing, look at the stat, the final box score. Houston only had 5 assists in that game. So at the end of the day, the offense got them.
Yeah.
The offense got them. And when you get to this stage, just like Houston did to Duke, some flaws get exposed.
Well,
and Houston with offensive in the late game, they got exposed. When Florida made them play offense, not just play bully ball, dribble, crab dribble, back you down, throw it up off the glass, play volleyball. We're going to grab an offensive rebound, kick out, or we have a wide open 3. They made them run offense, and Houston could not run offense at the end of the game, courtesy of Florida. So kudos to Florida for blowing that up. But they're going to be many theses are going to be written on the final play and what the hell happened.
I'll give you my final thesis. They got tight in the last 4 minutes. They just got tight. They had not dominate, but they had controlled that game. They had stiff-armed Florida to a point. They were Houston only trailed the game for a total of 63 seconds.
How about that?
In that contest? Florida only had the lead for 1 minute and 3 seconds, but they had the lead with 000s, and that's all that matters. But they had controlled that game, and with 4 minutes left, you're up. You're up. Let me see. I think they were up 3, and they're there. And all you got to do is just continue to do what you've been doing all game on both sides of the ball, right? And it got to a certain point, I think, that Houston was thinking, man, how are they still here? How are they still around? We've played our best basketball. When we play basketball in this way, teams aren't this close. Mm-hmm. Teams are not competing with us. And yet here this team is, and they are playing free. Florida was playing like they had nothing to lose. Florida was playing for the national championship, and Houston was playing not to lose the national championship. And that's what happened in the last 4 minutes of that game. And like I said, they scored 3 points in the last 4 minutes. I don't care who you are. You could be the 96 Bulls. You are not going to win any sort of game in the last 3 minutes of playing against that high quality of opponent when you only score 3 points.
That was so chaotic at the end.
I just don't. I mean, how can that team have that good of a coach, that good of a talent, 19 seconds left, and 2 points just to score? And that was the play that they run. And that was the result.
Because they let the ball get out of Cryer's hand. So Florida, again, great job defensively, and Houston panicked. And even if Sharp gets that shot off, I mean, it's going to probably be partially blocked or will not be good. So then you fight like hell to get the rebound. They let the ball get out of Cryer's hand. And once that happened, I mean, Florida knew it wasn't coming back to him.
Yeah.
Florida did a really good job at the end, and the Gator boys are in the national championship.
And it's a damn shame because Emmanuel Sharp did an incredible job on Walter Clayton all night too.
Oh, yeah.
Like if Houston were to have won that game, he would have been looked at as a defensive hero of, wow, he shut down what has easily been the best player in this entire tournament. And yet, like you said, and this is sports, and this is just kind of life, and it's a terrible reality, but it's one play, and it's one moment, and it's literally like 4 seconds in that dude's life.
Yeah,
we are going to remember that more than anything.
Look at like not the sports shows, but like the national news shows this morning. They won't show a Florida play. Instead, they will show the last 10 seconds or so. And that's what will be the memory of this national championship game. What will also be the memory, so the game ends last night. They do all the post game.
The ball is tipped.
Very underwhelming. One shining moment, extremely underwhelming.
I just wanted them to get to it and hurry up. Like, come on.
So both of the locals that were in the NCAA tournament got run in the one shining moment. 28 seconds in, there is a Markel Sutton dunk that they cut away from, but you can clearly tell it's Markel Sutton going for the dunk.
It was a half second. It was a half-assed. They should have given. I mean, just let him finish the dunk. You know.
And then Stephen Ashworth, and his son Tommy, they were featured at about 52 seconds, but it was. I think it was. First of all, it seemed quick. Like it seemed like it went. It seemed like bam, bam, bam. It went really, really quick.
What a metaphor!
It was very underwhelming to me. And after I shut the TV off last night, I was like,
you weren't satisfied?
Well,
you watched old One Shining Moments?
I'm probably going to be in the minority because I think the longer that One Shining Moment is gone, people tinkle on it. I like it when it gives me chills. Okay? I think that's what that is intended to do. You know, the song, whether it be Teddy or Luther, it's supposed to give you chills. It's a good wrap up to the season. Was disappointed that there were not any replay review, little huddles together in there. But I was very, very underwhelmed by it, and I think I know why now.
Why do you think you were underwhelmed by the One Shining Moment?
Greg Gumbel wasn't there to introduce it. So Ernie Johnson tried to do his best, but it also, like, if I remember in the past, and Jimmy, this is your world as a Rain Man, don't they normally wrap on the set, go to a break, come back, and Greg Gumbel will introduce it, and then they go to black? Like, they were trying to wrap up on the set of comments about the game.
It did feel rushed.
And then all of a sudden, the transition into here's one shining moment.
It did kind of feel like, hey, we have to do it. So here you go.
Like they were listening to me. He wants to go to sleep. It's already 10:30.
I'm not a big I'm not disrespecting it, okay? I'm not disrespecting it at all. I'm not necessarily the biggest One Shining Moment guy.
They want some new songs.
Like, no.
Jonas Brothers or whoever
there
the
are
kids
some
are listening
people,
to these days.
I would like a college football One Shining Moment, but it's a CBS thing.
There are some. How would you do a One Shining Moment?
ESPN would probably like a chain smokers.
Would you have to
or
show
some
all
garbage.
128 teams in a One Shining Moment college football? That'd be like a 7-minute One Shining
you
Moment.
don't, because they don't show all the 68 teams in the One Shining Moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I'm not like emotional with it or like, holy crap, I love
I think
it.
the younger set are over One Shining Moment.
I'm not a real.
They're killing
it's
everything.
It's not as emotional for me. It's not like a big deal. Like I see it. It's a cool video. I enjoy it. It's a catchy song.
So you will not go back and watch last night's One Shining Moment,
or some of your
It's
favorites.
now, by the way, it's now up on YouTube. They were a little slow to put up on
I
YouTube.
saw it. I was like, cool. I went to bed. I wasn't like there were some people who like really analyzed it,
Sabrina
and
Carpenter
and dove real deep into it, and were like this and that. I'm not really. I just kind of all right, cool. It's over. Head to bed. It's not like an emotional connection with me. It's not like a deep thing with me or anything like that.
It's the
Like,
end
I
of the
don't-
college basketball season.
Now,
Yeah, I
if Nebraska won a national championship or got far, he'd feel different.
Well, remember last year they somehow they inserted a clip that was not even in the NCAA tournament involving Nebraska.
It was like we weren't wearing red. Why is Jawan in a red jersey bent over there?
Surprising. So did Ryan Kalkbrenner go his entire career and did not show up in One Shining Moment?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great question, though.
Because I don't think Creighton was in it last year. Were they?
I don't remember. No.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
Once again, not a one shining moment historian. I'm not even a one shining moment present day guy. It was out in the background. I was writing down some notes. I just heard it.
Brandon texts the show, and he says the only reason to watch the game when you don't care about the outcome is one shining moment.
I couldn't agree less. I couldn't disagree more. It's the national championship. It's two of the best teams in the country. You're not watching for the 3-minute montage at the end of the game.
Also metaphor.
No,
2 hours
you know
for
what?
3 minutes
Hey,
of joy.
Hey, I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. If you have no vested interest, you shouldn't be required just to watch it because it's the last game of the year.
I had a vested interest. They should have went.
What was
to
your vested interest?
Well, they should have went to the bucket and made it 65-65, so they could have gone into overtime.
Did we have some money on this game?
Yeah, we
Hey,
had.
by the way,
Actually, I'm with you. I kind
was-
of wanted
hey,
overtime for the same reason.
Hey, I was thinking about you.
Thank you.
Because you went over.
I went over.
You made a passionate whole explanation about taking the over last night.
And I thought it was a good play. I thought it was there.
I'm with you.
I knew you were in trouble 10 minutes into the game.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, ooh, this is not a pace for people that love the over.
No. And when we were getting to the point where they were just going fast and chucking up shots and hitting the side of the backboard and like air balls, I'm like, guys, we got to I like going fast. We got to get some efficient offense here because I don't know if you know, the ball needs to go into the basket in order for me to get what I want. I think it was 11-14 with 10 minutes to play in the first half. And that's when you start doing the math in your head. You're like, all right, we're going to need about 24 points from here. And you're going to need 22 points here. We're going to need to get 35-35 to get back on our pace heading into the second half. Like I started doing that. We got to 7 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, all right, I need them to get up this amount so we can start fouling, right? Because if we get too close, then they're actually going to play the game. I don't need the game to be played at this point. I need as many fouls and free throws as possible. So, yeah, it was tough. It was tough. But with 19 seconds left and with Houston with the ball, I thought, I'm good because Houston's going to get to the bucket. They'll get fouled. They'll make the 2 free throws. We'll go to overtime. We'll hit it easy. No.
Yeah, but wasn't the total 141 and a half?
It was I got it at 141. So if we were 65-65 heading in an OT, theoretically, we would have been okay.
Sean tweets at the show.
He's right, too. Sean is.
They used to run the credits over music while the winning team was cutting it out of the nets, fading to one shining moment.
Remember that?
Yes,
yeah,
they
the
did.
Piano. It's very nice.
He said they do show all 68 teams if you look closely. Is that new?
I've always
there were like 4 or 5
was,
last year that were not in it.
Okay,
everybody
I've always assumed,
has to
just
be
thought
included now.
all the teams. Once again, not a one shining moment guy, not a one shining moment historian. I always just thought all the teams get thrown into the montage as a cute little homage.
So that they consider like if you get posterized and you made it.
You made it. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Your team is there.
That sucks.
I mean,
at least Omaha
makes you think twice about
Omaha
defending.
lost by 30, but at least they get like a positive in there.
Exactly. Well, no, it's I've always thought the one shining moment was kind of for the 13 through the 16 seeds, just like a recapitulation of like, hey, you are here, you made it, congratulations once again. Everybody can remember, the fact that maybe a couple guys thought, hey, this 15 is going to be like, I'll never forget the Bryant Bulldogs. I thought they were going to beat Michigan State. I was very passionate about that. They'll always be in my heart.
Yeah,
they'll always be my one
missed
shining
that
moment. Yeah.
Ooh,
Slight misstep.
Speaking of which, so I was in this great alternate bracket.
I ended up getting third place in one of my bracket pools. $75, baby.
Oh, there you go. So you didn't lose.
Yeah, no. Cha-ching. Because I picked Florida. I picked the champion correctly this year. I picked Florida to win the national championship. What a hot take to take the best team of the best conference heading into the tournament.
But you won. That's all that matters. You look smart.
That way, hey, that's just now we're on to the Masters.
What did I finish here?
Oh, yeah. I did think about you too. I was wondering where you finished in the percentages.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the band.
So I was at 98.7%.
Yeah.
So I still finished 297,000.
Oh, you finished Did you pick Florida to win?
I picked Florida to win.
Oh.
Your pick won. I even got the congratulations because I looked it up at the end of the night. But I'm also in this a thing that everyone will fill out a bracket or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. I've been doing this for the last couple of years. There's a thing called the alternate bracket that I won. It's a huge contest that I won 2 years ago. You pick 16 teams. So you pick who you think is the number 1 seed that's going to go the furthest, will get you the most points, and then just, all the way down.
I like that.
It's a great bracket.
It is.
I used to think it was run by a local guy. I don't think he's that guy anymore. But it's it is ALT bracket. A guy named Mark, aka Airballers from Los Angeles, won it this year. Past winners include Brendan from Chicago and Gary from Omaha. But it's a really, really cool. It's a great concept. Is they have the 68 teams.
Yeah.
And so you say, like I had Florida going the furthest, who would get me the most points. I can't remember who I had as the number 2 seed, but that's how you do it. And then you just rack up points for as long as they stay around. So it's called ALT bracket if you're interested.
I'm interested. I'll do that. I'll do that next year. Hey, I won my high school friends bracket challenge. I came in first place.
Nice. What do you get?
$70.
Look at you.
I've had a great college basketball
finance your
season.
gambling problem or pay off those debts from Vinny, who's waiting outside of 66th and Q.
No gambling problems. You know my units. Look, I'm a unit guy. Everybody knows I've talked about them. I keep within my units. Okay, I've been doing a good job this year. I've had a great college. I won that Alabama pool. That was some cha-ching. I won this. That was some cha-ching. Came in 3rd place in my family bracket. By the way, shout out the McMasters. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place this year in our Irish full family bracket challenge out of 28 people. We know ball.
Nice.
The McMaster family, ball knowers.
Sam McEwen, who professes to be a ball knower. He loves him some balls. He'll join us coming up at 7th football.
Yes.
Basketball. Yeah,
basketball, baseball.
There are eyeballs that will be on football players in Lincoln, so there will be spring football talk today. If that interests you, Sam McEwen of the World Herald coming up at 7:30. Brian Christopherson coming up at 9. That is the lineup brought to you by the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Good thing Higgy, who has worked the national championship game, was not working last night. Those officials. Whew.
Yeah.
What happened to the 3 guys that worked the first half? Did they get locked in the dressing room and they didn't come out for the second half? And they put 3 new guys out there?
There was that. I think it was with 2 minutes left, and Florida went to the free throw. It was when they took the lead.
Yep.
That foul call, and it was kind of a late whistle as well. That was the first time during the Final Four I got other than the Cooper flag call, where I got really mad. I didn't have a vested interest in the game, and I got angry at the TV.
I thought the officiating
it got too tight down the end.
I thought the officiating was wrong last night. I just thought it was. All we want is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we want is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what you want in life, right, Jimmy? You just want some consistency.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You want 4.5 yards to carry.
Exactly.
You want 3rd and short.
Yes.
2nd and man.
Pass the green beans and run the damn ball.
All you want is some consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And from the first 20 to the last 20, I didn't think we got that last night. So that's something we'll touch on. Plus, with the college basketball season being over, let's do some grades. Let's talk about success. Was this a successful season for red, blue, and black Nebraska?
Going to go out on a limb and say you had a good one.
I'd say it's an A-pluser for the folks at 67th and Center.
A minus. No, I'm kidding.
Unfortunately, you'll never be able to have that moment again. Now
I'm kidding.
The expectation will be a little bit different. People expect to go to the NCAA tournament every year.
Yeah, Sweet 16.
I certainly do. I certainly do. I'm like, hey, who what do we look like in the portal? Why did that guard that we're after all of a sudden commit to Cal State Fullerton last night? Come on.
You're like Chris Paul. You're addicted now to the finals. You're addicted to going to the NCAA tournament. You got the gear. You got the NCAA tournament gear. You got the bracket from the Summit League Tournament Championship. You have all this memorabilia sitting in your basement. You're like, man, I want to do it again, Coach Crutchfield. I want to do it again.
I think Omaha is out of this conversation. But if you're Creighton and Nebraska, was it a successful season? We'll touch on that as we roll till 10 on a Tuesday on 1620 The Zone.
All right, a couple of things before we get to Old Man Doug. On Twitter, Sergeant Holka's Big Toe.
Okay.
I love the new name. I forgot to tell him yesterday.
He says, one shining moment has lost its luster. Like you met a 10 up in the club, but now she's a 6 and you're making excuses for it. It's run its course, find a new chick.
Still a victory, though.
Here's my thing. I'm getting a little sick and tired, though, of everything seems like it's losing its luster. Like every year.
Welcome to getting older.
No, I know. Every year there's just something different where it used to be better, or it's not the same, or man, it doesn't affect me as much as it used to affect me. I mean, there's nothing. There's not
like a hangover.
I'm just saying, every week there's something different that we like that we're like, man, it just doesn't hit the same. I mean, why can't we have things be like resurrected? Why can't we have more things being like,
Easter
you know what?
is coming next weekend.
That is true.
Josh says, here's the thing. This is my annual PSA. One Shining Moment isn't actually a good song. Almost any song played over those highlights at the end of the tournament for 40 years would catch on. You know that it was written on a napkin?
And it was written for Super Bowl 21. They just didn't use it.
Really? Written on a napkin?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the ball is kicked.
So David Barrett wrote on the back of a napkin for Luther Vandross.
Wow.
Yeah.
The ball is tipped.
It was almost shelved once. But it was, I don't know. Greg Gumbel was missing Greg Gumbel announce it and lead in, I think took away from me. But I'll be back next year and I'll see if they'll have one shining moment.
Hopefully they have a tournament because I'm just all these negative stories I've heard for 3 weeks. I'm worried.
Yeah, no Cinderellas, not competitive enough.
Final Four's
NIL
gonna suck.
has ruined college basketball. Everything's dead. One shining moment isn't good anymore. I mean, it's just we're falling apart. We're dying like Nebraska basketball.
Whoa.
It was a joke from yesterday.
Did I miss something?
I didn't know if you were like doubling down on Nebraska all night.
No. It was a tongue-in-cheek reference from yesterday's calls.
If Nebraska basketball is dying, do I get a refund on my season ticket deposit for next year?
I'd hope so because they want you to donate to 18.
Yeah, make it like the Masters. Come back for free next year.
Yeah. By the way, yes.
Yeah.
So Schmitty yesterday, I was telling you, went with a friend. They had practice passes. They opened the gates. He bought gear.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
He also has a picture from Amen Corner.
You can't take your phones in.
So I haven't followed up with him, but they have made a change. So everybody that had practice passes yesterday, they're going to get a refund and they will be able to purchase Monday practice passes next year because the weather screwed with the practice round yesterday at Augusta National.
That's pretty awesome. That's for a organization that is pretty strict on the rules and how they do certain things. It's a very classy act by Augusta.
Also, we now live in a world where the University of Florida, located in Gainesville, Florida, the former home of Ted Bundy.
This is like the fourth time now when in reference to a city, you bring up a serial killer.
Hey, but he knows it's serial killers.
Hey. I mean,
Al's kind of brother.
I'm not advocating that you promote serial killers.
Sure.
But there may be a correlation. Like if you've had a serial killer in your town, you might be good at something. Okay.
We had Al Capone and we suck at everything.
I lived in Wichita. We had BTK.
Cubs won the World Series in 16. White Sox in 05.
108
the Bulls in Jordan.
I wasn't alive. That doesn't count.
You missed a hell of a time.
So the Michael Jordan era does not count.
I don't get to celebrate those titles.
But you are in Chicago.
Yeah, I am there, but I don't get to be like, man, I'll never forget. I'll never forget when Pax hit that shot. I wasn't even a thought.
Look at Jeffrey Dahmer, Milwaukee. What did the Bucks do in 21? What did they do?
They won a title, and then they've been disappointing ever since then.
But they still got a title.
Hey, Starkweather, what happened? Nebraska won 5 national championships. You look it up. Hey, Google it.
That would be a great Twitter. This is a classic Twitter meme thing, the correlation between serial killers and national championships.
If you're a Creighton fan,
I'm listening.
You might want to encourage a serial killer in Omaha.
You're like, for the encouragement, why'd you do it? Why'd you kill all those people in West Omaha? Why'd
roll damn Jays? What?
I just want Greg to win one. Just want Coach Mack to get one.
Now, I want to preface this by saying that I am not advocating serial killers. Okay, I
Just
think that,
killing a bowl of cereal, but not serial killers.
but I'm on to something here, and this is a dark path.
Are you
yes,
onto something?
Yes, because I have
No, I'm
I have
listening.
another example, and I'm sorry that I'm on this dark path. Okay, I wholly apologize, but you got me thinking about Ted Bundy living in Gainesville, because when people bring up Gainesville, they talk about, hey, did you know Ted Bundy was living in Gainesville?
So did Aaron Hernandez.
Is that the first thing? If I meet someone from Gainesville, they'll be like, Ted Bundy?
No,
lived here?
they will
I feel
do
like-
this. They will
yes.
Gator boys are chomping, and Florida has won at least one national championship in some sport in 16 straight years. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
And then you ask them if they
that
watched
is-
the
okay.
96
All
Fiesta
right.
Bowl.
That is a great stat.
To finish this new scientific theory I have about serial killers and sports success,
Have any in Dallas?
do you remember Wayne Williams?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Just Wayne Messmer.
The Atlanta child murders.
Okay.
The Braves then won a World Series title.
How far after?
It doesn't matter. If you've had a serial killer
You're
in your
just
community,
good.
at
I don't
some
think
point
that
you're going to win a
counts.
championship.
All right, Googling cities with serial
Okay,
killers.
so I literally was about to look up the most famous serial killers and see if this actually checks out. Can you imagine if, like, in Leicester City, England, they had a serial killer out there? That's a real deep dive, by the way.
There was one in St. Petersburg.
What was
What
that?
happened? The Bucks won a Super Bowl
What
twice.
What was that? What was the soccer national champion this year? The national championship soccer team that conference had never won a national championship before.
Germany?
And they went on a massive, I think it was didn't Vermont win the NCAA soccer championship this year?
Did they make it? Yeah, they might have won it. I think Denver also made it.
I was just gonna say, like, if
Seattle's
that
Green River Killer.
that unlikely national championship, and they had like a serial killer, maybe then I would be lockstep with you.
All right. I apologize here that we've gone down this dark path, but Kyle reminds me, Nico Jenkins.
I was going to say Son of Sam before the 77 Yankees. That same summer.
You guys think I'm crazy. And
I think you're crazy.
And 98% of the time
Yeah, it was
I am.
Vermont. It was Vermont who won it. What if
Catamounts.
Vermont had a serial killer?
I'm sure they did. Somebody lived in a log cabin and produced maple syrup.
Mm-hmm. Very
and,
sticky.
and skied in the winter.
Yeah, the maple syrup serial killer
and loved the fall foliage.
Just kill it.
Beautiful.
Okay.
What was Vermont's serial killer? Yeah, the guy would dump a body and then there'd be a whole
He
bottle
would
of maple
strangle him in
syrup.
ice cream. There's Ben and Jerry's all over him.
Sean goes political here. He says your serial killer stat is almost better than the Ted Cruz stat. How about that? Ted Cruz is a curse. He showed up last night in San Antonio.
Oh, real?
Rooting for Houston.
Who's a bigger curse, Drake or Ted Cruz?
They're one and the same.
Yeah. Shoot. I don't think Ted Cruz wants to be wrapped up in that.
It's not like us.
And I don't think Drake wants to be wrapped up in that either.
I see it. I see it, Ted Cruz.
Say
You
Cruz.
stay away from the Spurs.
Say Ted.
Wear that Rockets jersey. Sorry, Ime.
All right. How about those Gators?
How about them?
I also got another Gator stat for you. Is the Gator boys are chomping. Oh, they're going to be popular in Gainesville.
Can't wait for Brian Edwards on Thursday.
We will get to Doug. We'll get to Sam McEwen coming up the next hour. We'll get to some portaling. Creighton had an addition. Nebraska had a subtraction. And why do guys that have goggles not work out in Lincoln?
Well, Casey had goggles for a second.
James
For a
Worthy.
second.
Didn't
Then he
work
got
out.
rid of him, got better.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
I'm surprised we don't play this song as like an into a segment every week on the show.
I mean, I was going to play it
You know?
at 9 o'clock yesterday, but we had a change.
Considering how much you enjoy Kendrick.
Wow. Yes, I do enjoy Kendrick.
Should be like the theme. This should be like the theme of Gary and Matt.
We'd have to get a deal with Kendrick, though.
Little John into the Equitable Bank inbox.
Wow.
Says,
Lil John. Yes. Yeah.
Not Lil, Little.
Okay.
Not Lil, Little. What's the time limit for this correlation on serial killer national championships? I think if at any point in your community you've had a serial killer, like Starkweather, it was after all, it was like late 50s, mid to late 50s, and then, Nebraska didn't pop until the 70s. So any time you've had one, then it opens up your window.
And then we got to wonder, is there like a radius that it has to be? Because I mentioned BTK earlier, and Kansas has won national championships. I mean, K-State's never won anything.
You guys think I'm absolutely crazy.
You
start doing the math.
You are absolutely insane.
He thinks you're insane. I'm listening and
Where
considering
was John Wayne Gacy? Where was he located?
We talked about this.
The clown?
Yeah.
Not very far from where you grew up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's correlation there then.
The Bulls won 6 titles in the
Blackhawks.
90s. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Speaking of winning titles, the University of Florida. How about this for you? In this century, men's basketball titles, football titles, they have combined to win 9.6% of them.
Who? Sorry.
Florida.
The Alligators.
Wow. That's incredible.
Alma mater of Jack Caglione.
You would look at Florida and you'd go, okay, I see where they're located. They're in the SEC. They have a brand. They've had success. They should be good across the board. And essentially they are. Football has taken a little bit of a dip. But Florida, if you're into the Director's Cup or whatever they call it today, should be one of those schools that is near the top every single year. But 9.6% of the men's basketball and football titles in this century have been won by Florida.
That is
The
an incredible
jort
accomplishment.
wearing, Tom Petty loving fans that go to the Swamp and go to the O-Dome. Congratulations.
Who would be
pub subs for everybody?
Who would be the next highest? Probably what? Just Alabama, right? Because they've won so many football. Outside of that, though, I don't think there's really anyone that has that combo of like being able to be incredibly competitive in both and win championships.
I thought you could only
in
win
both.
at one and not the other.
Well,
this is what I've been taught to believe.
There will be a discussion. I think there's a twofold discussion about college basketball this year, and the new thing that is coming in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Is you can be good at both, or can you? And that's even conference. Like the SEC validated with Florida winning the national championship, 2 to the Final Four. They had an incredible year, maybe the greatest year ever for college basketball as a conference. But it coincided with a dip in football.
Yes.
So can a conference have football and men's basketball both going at a high rate, and then look at quote unquote football schools that all of a sudden have had great success in basketball?
I think that when we get to the rev share era, where we're fully in this era, I think a lot of the convo amongst athletic departments is going to be, do we want to be good at both? Do we want to be competitive in both? Or are we going to really, really invest to be great in one and then kind of cross our fingers for the other? I think that will be this conversation about what your investment is on both programs in terms of football and basketball and what your expectations for those programs are. That is always going to be an evolutionary conversation that you're going to have with ADs. And I think it's incredibly interesting. And it's what's even crazier is that we talk about the salary cap era and we try and compare it to professional sports, right? The thing is that pro sports, they have a salary cap for one team. When you have a salary cap for all these different sports and you have to manage that in that regard and invest in all these different places and have all these different expectations, I do not envy being an athletic director in this day and age at all.
But there is not only the serial killer connection. By the way, yes, John Jubert, Bellevue. Okay, people want to get in this discussion about serial killers.
Everybody wants to be included.
Everybody's got a favorite serial killer.
You can. This is kind of a Lincoln discussion. There's no reason why football and men's basketball can't be good at the same time. I had front row seat in the 90s. You can feed off of each other. More men's basketball feeding off football. I mean, men's basketball is good. That doesn't mean all of a sudden football is. But men's basketball can feed off success of football. All right, we begin the hour. That will include a chat with Sam McEwen. Again, there is media that can watch an indoor practice today in Lincoln and give us thoughts. We'll talk to Sam about that. Old Man Doug joins us. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Doug.
Good morning. What a great Final Four. The games were all down to the line. I didn't think that Houston was going to lose last night, and I didn't think they were going to win against Duke. So very interesting. Somebody said at the beginning of this that it's almost more enjoyable to watch the tournament if you're not in any brackets or you don't have any bets on them. You can just enjoy the games. And actually, for the first time I can ever remember, I won a sizable bracket pool here.
What is sizable?
Yeah.
Give me a round
There were
number.
45 people was in it.
Oh. What's the entry fee? $100?
$10.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
That's pretty good.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know what they're paying first. I hope they're just paying first, but I never even looked into that. But so you asked for grades for the local teams.
Yes. Give it to me.
So here goes from top to bottom. UNO A+.
Nice.
Creighton B+. Nebraska C. And it would have been a D+ or a C- had they not done well in the Crown. Hey, has anybody asked the question? And I'm just curious how they're going to split that money. Will that ever made public, or has anybody even got the guts to ask the question?
I imagine so. Robin was the only reporter out in Vegas, and I don't think it came up. I think we're speculating that they will split it evenly, even though like we've had some fun and said, well, Juwan and Bryce should get more, and Kale should get the third highest share. I think they are going to split it evenly amongst the roster. So each guy will get about 17 to 20,000, but I don't know that for a fact, and maybe that's a question because I'm sure Fred will sit down with local media this week, and maybe that's a question that'll be posed. And maybe they haven't thought it through, but I do know that it's going to the players. It's not going into a collective to buy players. It's to take care of the guys that went out to Vegas and won.
Okay, well that's cool. I'll just say this about Nebraska basketball. I think a lot of there's a ton of transfers out there, so you can say any of them are good. I mean, you're not going to say they're bad when they come in, are you? Just like a recruit, you're not going to go, "Oh, that guy,"
No, I don't know.
For example, last year at Big Ten Media Days, Fred waxed poetic about Gavin Griffith. So yeah. No, nobody says, God, you know what? That guy's a 2-star, and man, he might play like a 1, but we needed a body. No, they're not going to do that.
I think, Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary are really good players, and they're going to be really hard to replace. I think that's going to be a huge. They get Rink Mass back, which will be good. He's very versatile and whatever, but there's just going to be the annual 15 pieces to try to put together, and I don't know how that's going to work because this year you had Williams and Gary anchoring the lineup, and then everybody else had their moments. Probably 50% of the time they were pretty good, and 50% of the time they weren't. The Sejan, I don't know why they weren't doing that all year, but he's a hell of a shooter. He would really thrive down on the hilltop, but
whoa. Because he shot lights out at the Chai in November.
Yeah, bang bang, right in your face. You saw it for.
Did he? I don't.
You've forgotten about that game, haven't you?
Yeah.
I see how you are. You forgot about that game. I haven't forgot about that game.
Your memory.
I forgot about the game. I haven't forgot about the Diamond Head Classic.
We're gonna go.
I'll never forget the Crown.
Nebraska had a better season than Creighton.
Hey, who won?
Not
who won? Who won?
Who won?
Who won?
Nebraska won.
There you go. Period.
Hey, if you're going to do that, Creighton's got multiple national championships. We swept Villanova in 2014.
Wait. I'm not claiming a natty. I'm not claiming a natty.
We're not claiming. You guys, yes, you are.
No, it's not claiming a natty. I'm not even claiming anything. I'm just stating what happened. Nebraska went to your court and they won.
They did.
There you go.
But here's the thing, Doug.
Does that make them the better team or the better program?
No.
Or the better season?
No.
No.
For one night, yes. But
yeah, you're right. One night they were the better team.
I am going to be on the island with many others that you can't compare Nebraska and Creighton basketball. But it actually does Nebraska harm when they beat Creighton. Did you know that?
Yeah.
We put a hex on them?
Well, the years that Nebraska has made the NCAA tournament, they've lost to Creighton.
See?
Yeah.
They should know their place. They should know their place.
Oh,
hey,
that's what we're doing.
You guys are awfully hard on Nebraska ball, Mike.
Because he said the program is dead.
Yeah, there's a difference.
The program ain't dead.
Doug, there's a difference between being disappointed and the program just being just non-existent.
Hey, would you argue with this? He is a bigger, more passionate Nebraska basketball fan than either of you two.
I don't know why we're getting into a measuring contest here.
Yeah, but that's the guy. Now, granted, he doesn't have season tickets. Gary, you do, or at least you have them this past season. Those are the people that are going to those games, and at some point, it was cool. They showed up at the Crown. Did everybody pay $200 and some a ticket?
No, if you hung outside of T-Mobile on Saturday and Sunday, somebody might bump into you and drop 2 tickets into your pocket.
Okay, because everybody was saying it's 200, and and then at some of these places they don't let you walk down to where there's empty seats if you didn't buy that ticket.
Yeah, you could have had a whole section to yourself. Are you more engaged in Nebraska basketball or Creighton basketball?
Yeah. You guys have had incredible pickups, and you've spent this whole time talking about Nebraska basketball.
And yesterday, the talk of the Serbian 7-footer, there was no talk. And of course, I did like how Connor and Josh did their little bit yesterday. It was pretty funny.
All right. Now, we didn't speak of it because he did not make his announcement until we were off the air. But that's for down the road. That's a pickup to watch. He didn't have to come in and play right away.
And lastly, are the Jacob Bigelow wounds ever going to heal? Because I liked listening to him.
I don't know. That's a Jacob thing.
That's what I thought. He hasn't reached out or whatever.
Oh, he's reached out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he should talk basketball during football season and get his revenge.
Well, that's what he was trying. All right, Doug, thank you. Wide-ranging phone call there.
So is he talking about Ugnis Yarushevicius?
He was not talking about him. He was talking about Alexa Dimitrievich.
Did you like that, by the way? I got it down. I practiced it. I practiced it last night. I went to the
good
Central.
with your Eastern European name.
No, I am a really good Eastern European pronunciation guy. I'm telling you, like, Yarushevicius.
Do you get an award for that?
I don't know. I just like a
hockey
niche
play-by-play job.
I'm just probably.
Ruslan Fedotenko.
Just
rolls off the tongue.
Then he drops it off to Tarasenko over the blue line.
I'm telling
you, it in top of the slot, turns, fires.
I would love to announce in the Swedish league. Johansson to Carlson to over to Dahlin,
Ikea.
back over to Larson. It's
Johnson,
Johansson, Callahanson. See, I just made that one up.
That'll be fun. You know what? I think next year, especially if Berke comes back, if he doesn't get banned from going back to Lithuania, I think Gus Johnson should do the Nebraska Creighton game next year.
I think Gus Johnson.
Fedor!
They should just have Gus follow one team around, right? But have him never
be world famous Ohio State.
Have
Buckeyes.
him never do prep. Like, hey Gus, don't prep for either team. Just show up to the booth. Just do all of the Penn State Nittany Lions games this year, and just show up. No sheets, no nothing. Just talk, just speak, and let's see what happens. 23 in the corner, bang!
So I think we can probably deduct he will be doing the Nebraska-Michigan game.
Yeah.
If it's on Fox.
Yeah, probably. I think
Dylan Raiola.
Big Red.
Did they not get a picture together?
Oh, him and Gus?
Because Gus was on the floor before the game while guys were warming up.
Gus was taking pictures with everybody on.
Yeah, did he not get the picture with the man that's living?
I don't think he did. By the way, was it just laundry day for Gus? Like, did he only pack a certain amount of suits and ties and shirts to Vegas, and that was all he had left? Because that was a really interesting mix of.
Sometimes you end up with stuff on your suit in Vegas.
I mean,
Glitter,
clearly.
food.
Clearly. I mean, it was.
A couple of things here. Paul says random Doug.
Ooh.
Kyle says old man Doug using his 5 minutes of airtime to complain about Nebraska ball and 10 seconds to complain no one talks Creighton. Old man Doug, you could talk Creighton.
It's a good point.
I'm looking, and this is just a fruitless exercise, but all the way too early top 25s.
I saw,
especially for college basketball.
Fanta posted his yesterday.
I think you have
was
to.
What do you? Do you really have to?
Yeah,
We're not even done with the transfer portal yet.
I think you have to, and then you update it. Like Goodman updates his. He'll put one out today, and then he'll update it in a month.
It'll be like July, and he updates it. It's like, what are we doing?
Creighton
Come back to me in
is in a couple. I think on ESPN and USA Today, they're like 21st, 22nd. They'll be preseason top 25. They also have odds to win the national championship next year, plus 5,000. If you are interested in doing that, the day after college basketball ended,
and you gave people something to look at when considering your future picks.
I will not make any sort of picks on college basketball until the season begins. I'm not in college basketball. We're placing futures all the way in June. That's crazy. With how crazy the sport is. I mean, look at the preseason top 25 to begin the year. Rutgers was in it. Rutgers was a top team. They didn't even sniff the tournament.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But has there ever been a serial killer in New Jersey?
Son of Sam was New York.
I mean,
mob doesn't count.
Would you count? Would you count Tony Soprano?
No.
I mean,
he was not technically a serial killer either.
No, technically not, because he knew the people. Yeah. There was motive.
Hey,
was motive.
Great clarification on Son of Sam. New Jersey better not be claiming a New York serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's how this works.
Hey,
there are rules to this.
But New York does claim New Jersey teams.
New York doesn't claim Bon Jovi or Springsteen.
I mean, the Giants and the Jets play in New Jersey.
Yeah,
I feel like that.
I
stand for New Jersey. I'm with New Jersey. You can't. New Jersey. If New York can claim New Jersey, New Jersey can claim New York.
You can have that Eastern time, gray skies and cold. No.
Oh, Eastern time zone.
Nope.
Your time is over. You're done. Eastern time zone done. You know what?
All right, Herb Brooks.
Hey, you know who really had a bad night last night?
Who?
Our good friends in Nova Scotia, because the game tipped off at 9:50 local time.
Yeah, that's bad.
Sam McEwen will join us before the hour is over. And Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Hey, you know who knows roofing? The Moose. Actually, a Moose does. His name is Pat Moose. He is behind Moose Roofing. They've been in Omaha since the late 90s. They're coming up on nearly 30 years as an Omaha roofing company that is focused on your roof, commercial roofing, siders, gutters, doing the best job possible, all for you. They're polite, they're honest, their integrity, their professionalism is top notch. And, you know, in this day and age where roofing companies, they don't have a structure, their business is on wheels. Moose Roof Roofing is refreshing. They will help you if your roof has damage from a recent storm or it is showing its age and you want to sell it and you want to make sure that you get the most for it. Moose Roofing is the place to go. Give them a call today, 402-763-4851, or online at mooseroofing.com. This is what they do. Their whole operation is in it to win it for you. Again, their integrity, professionalism, top notch. They're also polite. They're honest. They make the process simple. They'll come out to your house. You'll sit down with their consultants. They'll get to know you, and then they will get to know your roof. And then they will go to work if your roof, siding, or gutters needs work. And they'll take care of you. And through the whole process, they'll keep you updated on everything that is going on. They'll clean up after themselves. And you know what? And then when you're going through the insurance process before they get on your roof, they've got an entire department that'll sit down and work with you, because that process has gotten more difficult. Award-winning right here. Pat Moose, they've roofed over 15,000 homes from Southwest Iowa to Lincoln. Let them take care of your roof, siding, or gutters today. Contact them online at mooseroofing.com. All right, week 3 of spring football in Lincoln. There will be media availability to watch some practice today, which is always very nice. Sam McEwen will have a front row seat, but first he stops by Gary and Matt. Good morning.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Good. You know what? It's Tuesday. Basketball is over. We're on to football. We got baseball, big game tonight for Nebraska and
Massive
Lawrence.
game.
But let's close the book on local basketball. And from Nebraska's standpoint on the men's side, no Big Ten tournament, but 4 wins in 7 days in Vegas. Was the Nebraska basketball season a success?
Well, I don't think by their standards they would say yes. If you go to preseason standards, they would say NCAA tournament every single year. And so I think that's a question that you can answer a couple of different ways, because you can ask Fred and he's going to give the sort of, well, we didn't do this, but we did do this kind of answer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that answer. I think that's fine. But I also think that it's reasonable to, if this is how you're going to do it and you're going to be a portal program, you're basically saying every single year we want to create the opportunity to go to the big dance. And if you have an all-league player, which Nebraska did, those are the reasonable expectations. And so, again, I think there were successful parts of the season, but ultimately making the Big Ten tournament and making the NCAA tournament are 2 key things on that list, and Nebraska did not get that done.
Matt Rule's last availability on Saturday, listening to it, you could hear that he's definitely taken more of this CEO role, right? And he even mentioned himself that he gets bored during practices, right? Because he's just not as involved because he's got so many high-level coaches. Would you consider this a positive for the Nebraska football program?
I mean, his version of bored is everyone else's version of dialed in.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Rule is a really...
No, but I mean, like, not him being bored, like him being a CEO. Would you consider it a positive?
Yes, he's always been that, though.
Yeah,
he's always been that. I think it might be his greatest strength, is that portion of the job. And it happens to dovetail into a time when having that strength is really important. I think there have probably been times, and I'm not, there's been times when the ball coach persona was just exactly what you needed. And not even that long ago, and I tip my cap to a guy like Dabo who can win without having to do some of the other things that, like the portal, and he's able to kind of put it together and just kind of recruit high schools. We'll see if that, remains the same. There's certainly, qualities of Harbaugh that was sort of like that. But I think what you really need today is somebody who's on top of, especially at Nebraska. Now, maybe at Clemson and Michigan, you can do a little bit more rolling the ball out. But especially at Nebraska, you need somebody who's going to really be on top of the stuff off the field. And so I think that's something that Rule's always been about. I think his point, and this is probably true, is that when he got here, I don't think he had unlimited assistant coaches. And so he's having to fill in here or fill in there. And he had a younger staff when he got here. Now that you can have as many guys on the field as you want, there's just some gaps that don't exist anymore. And it provides him the opportunity that if there's a recruit at practice, he can go over and say something to that guy. But the CEO portion of his job has always kind of been there. And again, I understand what he means by serene. That's his version of serene. That's not most people's version of serene. And so he's an intense guy. And I think part of it is that he has a lot of stuff off the field that's got to be right, or otherwise the program's not going to be where it wants to be. And those are the parts where Nebraska, at this point, especially with revenue sharing and roster limits and all that, Nebraska needs him the most.
The dismissal of Hardley Gilmore, does that show you that it's working at Nebraska? And I say that from the standpoint is he lost the trust of his teammates, and his teammates policed somebody that was not all in to do things on and off the field to help them be successful this year. Because you'll look at it and go, man, I'd love to see what he could do because he has this upside that he's only started to scratch the surface, but he's only 17 years old. But can't you also, Sam, make a case where Nebraska as a player-run team did their job with somebody who stepped out of line?
In this case, yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right. At the same time, there's not unlimited spots anymore. And so, like, if you were like, well, the roster can still be 142, or we think it can, maybe that's something where all right, man, this hurts X, Y, and Z. Let's try to figure this out. But you're not going to retain a guy who wouldn't, in theory, have the trust of his teammates if it meant some other guy might have to go. Like that's part of it too. That's a very, very competitive position. That there's a couple of positions like that on the team, and he hasn't been here long. And so a lot of times, again, people can make mistakes, but how long have they been there, and what happened, and all those things. And so, I think there's certainly something to be said for players being able to resolve it. Again, Rule didn't make like a big show of it, which means he had the confidence of the team, and he's not having to try to. He is doing less. Here's what we're going to be about kind of answers in his press conferences, because I think the players all kind of know. And again, even though the settlement hasn't been approved, this 105-man roster thing has its benefits. Like,
absolutely,
you don't want to be with the program. We got 132 guys in here, so maybe we have 131. Like that kind of, like you don't have time now to mess around, so to speak.
So that's funny you bring that up, because this was going to be my exact question. So the House settlement yesterday was reviewed by a judge, and her ruling, she it wasn't settled, but one of the things that she said at the very end was she wants them to go back over the roster limit, right, on all these sports, and that was a really big. That was a big a point of contention, and brought up the idea maybe you grandfather current athletes in, and it was just making suggestions and whatnot. But they're going to have a week, and then they'll come back and they'll figure it out. But what you brought it up, and I kind of want to hear it. What are some of the benefits for Nebraska football in terms of having this 105 person roster limit?
Well, it wouldn't be specific to Nebraska, but just the general idea of there are not unlimited spots here. And so the competition is what it is, but competition is not just like what you do on the field. It's also all the components. And so one thing Rule said, I think it was back in the fall, maybe it was in the winter, where he said, the last 10 spots on that team are going to be guys that'll just do whatever we ask them to do. I think he mentioned Roman Mangini.
Yeah.
And I always think of Brandon Rigoni from the mid 2000s, a guy that would just do anything he asked him to do and was willing to sell out and do it the right way, on the field. Or a Matthew May or other guys like that, during the Bo era. And so like if Rule's willing to stick to that, and I think he should. I think he should be able to say, hey, Kenneth Williams is doing things the right way. We're keeping this guy, that kind of thing. Then I think it just creates a whole different component for the other 95 spots, which you could call, scholarship spots or whatever you want to call it. Just, if you're going to come here and you're going to benefit from the great training table and all these other things, hey, you got to compete, and you have to. Nothing is assumed, and if you're going to be a walk-on type player here, you're not going to get 3 years to figure that out while you're practice spotted. That is a treasured spot. So there's aspects of that are helpful. We'll see if they phase it in. They'll have to kind of change the settlement, obviously, and nobody wants. Actually, a lot of the other roster sizes are going up, and so nobody's really worried about that. I think it's more just about football and whether the roster limit should be different. Had they originally said 115, I don't think there's a reorganization of anything. Like I wish that the number at the front end had been a little different, 120 probably would have been ideal. But if you had told everybody, hey, man, 115, I think everybody would have looked around and said, yeah, all right. Here's the challenge, guys, is that I think there was a perception that all 105 spots would be scholarshiped up.
Yeah.
And that, like, well, we're giving 34 baseball spots. They're going to give everybody a scholarship. That's probably not going to happen. And, so I don't know that all 105 spots at every school is going to be scholarshiped up. It might still be 85. What I don't know that they did when they thought about the roster limits is understand the nature of the sport of football, that you have a cushion of guys that are not like fodder. They're like taxi squad guys. They're guys that in the NFL you would call up because they're third team, and now you're getting rid of all those guys and you're depleting your depth. And so, like, I would love to see it at about 115, maybe 120, because then you're including all the potential guys that you might need late in the season to come up and play on special teams. And I'm not talking about the guys that are 5-year scout teamers, and they used to have that in the Osborne era. I'm talking about guys that are, third-year outside linebackers that all of a sudden make a jump in mid-season, and then you're putting them in the lineup. So, I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but I would love to see the roster limits a little higher. That'd be me, and I think the coaches would too. And it doesn't need to go to 150. It could be 115 or 120, and I think every coach would be like, all right, we can do that.
Hey, 105, and then give me a 10-man practice squad that if we need to call somebody up because of injuries, we have them. They're working out with our team, but they're not on the active game day roster.
Right.
Part of the active game day roster is the offensive line, which was a discussion the other day. When we get through spring ball, on your big board in Sharpie, how many offensive line spots do you think you'll be able to fill in permanent that you can do at the end of April that'll still be the same at the end of August as starters?
Yeah, only a couple. And so I think Justin Evans will be in a starting spot somewhere. I think Rocco Spindler will be in a starting spot somewhere. And then it might be trending toward Elijah Pritchett and starting somewhere, only because at the end of the day, you lost your full-time starting right tackle, and you really can't say what Turner Corcoran is going to do. So Prohaska's doing everything. He's doing everything except contact. Corcoran's still, it's hard to say. So I think if you're comfortable in saying, well, we have a starting right tackle, regardless of what Teddy's able to do or not do, you have him, you have Pritchett, you have Spindler, and you have Evans, and then you can figure out your other tackles, and then they have enough guards. They have guards, so that won't be a concern. So I'd say 3, but maybe more like 3. I think would be the most that you could do, and 2 for sure. So that's the number.
Doesn't it seem like it always is coming back, or at least in my opinion, to Sam Sledge? If Sam Sledge can lock up center, you essentially have your 3 interior guys set going into summer.
Mm-hmm. You do. I think it is not. It's a high standard to play center for Donovan Raiola, and I think it's just a high standard to play center in college. I would argue that the center position is the most important of all the offensive line positions in college. And in the NFL, that's not true. And there's reasons for why it's not true, although that's kind of changing because Lamar Jackson doesn't necessarily need a great left tackle. He needs other things. But, at the collegiate level, your center is your leader. In a lot of ways, your center is the guy that kind of gets everybody together and kind of commands and runs the offensive line. And again, I understand that left tackles are taken higher in the NFL draft. That's based on a value at that level. It's kind of like the difference in the NBA and college basketball, the value of a great post, and in the NBA, maybe you don't need that guy as much because there's already a bunch of guys who are like that. But at the college level, if you have a great post, you're going to go a long way, see Ryan Kalkbrenner. So like the value of a great center in college football is really important. And that tends to be toward older guys, I would think. So if they got a guy in the program who's already kind of the leader, and I think Rocco Spindler is the leader, but I also think Evans is too. You could see him go to center, and then Sledge could develop a little bit more. And then as the season goes on, if they feel like Sledge could take it, maybe you can move guys around. But yeah, I think that's very true what you say, and maybe he will come along really quickly and take that spot so that Evans can stay at guard.
One room, and I guess technically it'd be two rooms that I'm really intrigued by is the linebackers and the jacks. And I just think that both those rooms, they have an incredible mix of high-level talent, and you also have some mix of production and guys who have been in college, whether it be in Nebraska or other places, for a really long time. How important do you think is the collective job that Phil Simpson and Rob Dvorak are going to have to do for this defense this season?
Well, those are always really important positions because usually your middle linebacker is a green dot guy. So he's going to be the shot caller for the defense and be the play caller on that side. And again, green dots on defense are a little different because a lot of times they're just signaling in anyway. But I think that's part of it. I think there's just a lot about that front seven that I think is still sort of a work in progress. I think you have to kind of think about who you are on first and second down, and then who you're going to be on third down. So, like, one of the things I'm going to be watching for is how the linebackers cover passes. Like, how do they do that? We don't often think about that. Like, we think a lot about guys, linebackers, Jackson, and middle linebackers moving forward and going toward. But a lot of what they do, and a lot of what, hurt Nebraska in games at times, over the last two seasons is, mediocre drops by the linebackers. And I don't mean drops like they drop the ball, like mediocre drops into their zone coverages. And, in the Illinois game, you have Prince William yelling, dropping into nowhere. They're throwing it behind him, and they're hitting slants. And those are all components of a defense that I think get overlooked. And so, like, what kind of pass defense do they want to run? Do I think Deshaun McCullough can be very good in that position? I do. I think he's very versatile and can, knows how to drop and how to play and where to play, and he can take away a throw. That doesn't show up in the stat category, but the ability to take away a play, limits the quarterback's option. So I think some of what they've got to do is make sure that, like, when it's 3rd and 5 and you're kind of locked up on the outside, well, look, that's a huge play in a game.
Yeah.
And if your tight end, if the opposing tight end is running free in the zone, or it's a match zone, or it's a man, or guys coming across, or guys doing what they're supposed to do, all those little things. And I think that's an area where they've got to get better. They know that. And, you've got to have a combination of things that you want to do. And so I think that Nebraska's run defense will be pretty good. And the reason I believe that is because that is their emphasis. They will put a ton of effort toward that, and they are a tough team. And so physically, they're able to get things done there. For me, it's often a question of, like, how do you throw the football? Or when you're an offense like USC, and you can keep a lighter, more defensive backs on the field because they're worried about your receivers, and then USC can run the football on you because there's fewer guys in the box. And so, like, all those little components that come into play, they got to get better at pass defense. Mm-hmm. And if they do that, then I think everything that moves forward, whether it's pass rush or running the ball or defending the run, will get better too. And so I assume they're talking about all those things and try to process how they're going to put all the components together so that they have a top 5 in the country kind of defense, not top 30, but top 5. And if they can get there, then I think they're kind of where Notre Dame, for example, was last year. Notre Dame had an incredible defense, front to back, and that's where I think they want to try to get.
It'll be interesting to see how many guys play in the regular rotation. Sam, as always, appreciate it. We'll see you later today in Lincoln.
All right, take care.
That's Sam McCune of the World Herald. Again, practice is open to the media today. And now that basketball is open over, the interest in football will pick up. And that's a tribute to basketball around here. We talked a lot about Omaha basketball, Creighton basketball, and Nebraska basketball. And I think that took away from the interest and the discussion about spring football. That ends today. Spring football is back. Basketball is over.
Baby.
We got 2 weeks to talk about the lead up to the spring games.
You mean the Husker games?
Spring games.
Is it
Call them
Husker
spring
games?
The Husker games. I'm calling it the spring games.
But it's the Husker.
I still want to know the list for the garage sale.
Yeah, me too. That's all I care about, Jimmy. I don't give a damn about
care
these
about what
Monday
everyone's
Night Football
buying.
or
No,
anything
you're
like that, the
you're playing to the
one-on-ones.
masses. They don't. Well, let's talk football. Let's have some football. You want to know? You want to talk about what the players were wearing, what I can wear. I want to talk about the players. I want to talk about my love of Sam Sledge.
You want to? Yeah. You want to talk about the things that they could do on the field that you could never do in a million years.
This is why Nebraska football has been in the Sahara. Is because we worry about so much stuff that is not about winning. It's about winning.
We got to stop talking about
It has
Gavin
been about
Griffiths and more
losing.
about Sam Sledge.
It's been about losing. We got to talk about winning.
I don't care if Rick Mask is injured. What the heck is Cortez Mills doing?
You kids are killing us. You're like, I want their shoes. I want them to do something in those shoes.
I want a quarter zip.
I want the guy that wears the quarter zip on the sidelines to be better at his job.
I just want his quarter zip. That's just all I want. I don't care about anything else. Just give me his quarter zip.
You might get his quarter zip when he gets fired. All right.
Jeez.
Brian Christopherson will join us a little bit later. It's time for spring football. Welcome.
Bang, bang.
Welcome on 1620 The Zone.
Okay, sorry. I just got to talk about basketball again because do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, you can with Underdog. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your basketball knowledge because millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. And if the game last night would have gone to overtime, perhaps me and Matt would have won some more. Well, who knows? Anyway, their app has over 100,000 five-star reviews and millions of players. Two overtimes would have done it just fine. Anyway, this week on Underdog, I am looking at the final week of the NBA regular season because so many of your favorite players will no longer be playing after this weekend because they don't get to participate in the playoffs. But you do, I do, and I plan on doing that too. But this week, let's get the rest of the games. And how you can do it? Well, it's pretty easy. Download the Underdog app. Sign up now using promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on all the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, as we wrap up the hour, we discuss more college kids that run around in helmets in Lincoln. I'm ready for spring football.
When you put it like that, it doesn't sound that exciting or fun, but it is. It is fun. I mean, it's football.
There has not been it's not for a lack.
We love football.
From my standpoint, it's not a lack of interest. It's just basketball discussion has lasted longer.
Yeah.
And football has been going on for 3 weeks, but now the basketball is over. We're going to talk football, except for right now. Will the best team to play in the state of Nebraska next year in hoops be an actual and an exhibition game? Subtly, last week it was announced that BYU and Nebraska are going to do a 2-year exhibition.
Yeah.
Where BYU, which will be maybe a preseason top 5 team, will play in Lincoln, and then the following year they will go to Provo.
Very pretty.
BYU, because that game should sell out.
I was about to say, if you are a ball knower, you are going to that game. And I know it's an exhibition, but you want to see that BYU team, and you want to see AJ Dibanska play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick.
If he is as good as expected, they could make a run to the Final Four.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll be playing an exhibition game against Nebraska. They might be the best team because UConn will probably find themselves preseason top 7 or so. Michigan will be really, really good. But BYU, I wouldn't be surprised if BYU starts the year 4, 5, 6.
So John Fan is way too early, top 25. He's got UConn at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Other potential, he's got Michigan 14, Michigan State 18, BYU 21. So
he's got BYU 21.
21.
Whoa, he doesn't know ball.
I think they're going to lose. They're going to lose Demon, right, in the NBA draft, and so I don't know the rest.
Kada and Baker and Saunders and Boskovic are coming back, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Then yeah, they should be a preseason.
Fanta is like,
what is he talking about?
He's being infiltrated by Goodman. All right, 2 hours to go.
Who's Mark Titus? Never heard of that name before.
He was a walk-on at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Coming up at 9, Brian Christopherson will stop by. That'll be football talk in 1620 The Zone. All right, Gary, Matt on the zone, the stream. Hello to Jimmy, Captain Theo with us today. I'm scrolling up. PWP fan. Blake. Hello, Blake. Blake, we're going to get to something. Blake and I were changing some emails. I still got some issues with what happened at the Kirsten Bernthal booth press conference yesterday. Good morning to Keegan, everybody that has joined us this morning. Brian.
Good morning, Fong.
Got a question here.
Yep.
Are people afraid to attack Santa Claus?
Yes.
So is Santa Claus off limits? Like if you are a juvenile and, like my thing here is we get towards Easter.
Yeah.
There is no good looking bunny costume.
No.
I've said
this for years.
Hey, there's a local golf course that is doing a big brunch for Easter.
Okay.
And so they have this promo video out there. And it's the most, you think I don't like the current Herbie?
Sure.
Whew.
Is it an ugly bunny?
The bunny costumes just
They
don't
hit.
pop. But so they make the current Herbie look like a jewel. But
not
you
jewel.
never hear of like Santa Claus
Santa.
getting attacked by juveniles. But at least a couple of times every Easter season, you hear about juveniles attacking a Easter bunny. And the most recent one happened in Naples, Florida.
Florida kid.
But it was a trio. I think you're intimidated by Santa Claus and you're afraid like if you touch Santa Claus, like there's going to be bad karma your way. But if you beat the crap out of an Easter bunny, all you're going to do is go to jail.
Well,
okay.
You're not going to get any chocolate.
But people are more likely to attack the Easter bunny than they are Santa Claus, and I think it's a mental thing.
For sure is a mental thing because
should
you
get a
have to
real
understand
bunny.
the juvenile mind, the 3, 4, 5-year-old mind looks at the Easter bunny, and I don't think they look at the Easter bunny as, there might be someone in that costume. They look at it as like a big cartoonish bunny. And they, some kids are afraid of mascots. I was afraid of mascots growing up.
Didn't like Benny?
No, I didn't. I was deathly afraid of mascots. So maybe it's a fight or flight mode where some juveniles run up to an Easter bunny and think that to defend themselves, they need to kick the crap out of them. Santa Claus, he's a real guy. You don't want to beat up a real human. You don't want to beat up Santa Claus. You want like your actual gifts, the Easter bunny. What does the Easter bunny really do?
You're saying Santa Claus is a ball knower. The Easter bunny is not.
What does the Easter bunny really do? What is he?
Brings you big baskets.
First of all,
does he
of chocolate?
You're like, oh my God, the Easter bunny is coming. He's gonna come down the chimney. He's gonna give us our Easter bunny basket.
The Easter bunny comes down the chimney?
No, he just rings the doorbell. He's wearing a short sleeve shirt and a tie.
Does the Easter bunny? See, I wouldn't even know. What does the Easter bunny even do?
The Easter bunny delivers candy.
Yeah,
the Easter bunny is a vibrant character that opens the door to spring.
Peeps are disgusting.
Well, I mean,
the Easter bunny has nothing to do with those.
Yeah.
Well, you said it gives candy, and I feel like the number one candy.
Oh,
for
a
Easter
good Easter bunny does not give you peeps.
Peeps are awful.
He gives you jelly beans that have the white and black taken out of them.
Oh, see, I like my black jelly beans.
Here's what I don't understand with the current world of. And this happened to me when I was a kid.
Sure.
My parents were willy-nilly with me and they just let whoever touch me and do whatever. We don't even think twice about putting our kids on the laps of Santa Claus or the Easter bunny. Like
right.
Like there's no they don't have like a badge on that says I've been vetted and I'm not a pedophile. But we just like roll
Santa
up.
Claus is one of the best guys out there.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know about the Easter bunny.
Which is more likely to have a little the guy in the Santa Claus outfit or the guy in the Easter bunny outfit?
Oh, the guy in Santa Claus outfit.
But we don't even hesitate. Now,
without a doubt, the guy in the Santa Claus.
Now, the Santa Claus is always happy. Like you go to the mall, like if the malls still exist, and you have the display that has all the vibrant colors and the Easter bunny is there for you to come and sit on his lap and take a picture. Mm-hmm. The Easter bunny always looks depressed. Like there's no Easter bunny face that like
or hungover.
Smiling. Yeah. And you always think about like the Easter bunny could be a serial killer about a conversation we had earlier in the show. But we never hear about Santa Claus being attacked. Like what happened in Naples is this. And maybe it's a Southwest Florida thing because when I was living down there.
Probably is.
You are the expert, so yes.
At Edison Mall, the Easter bunny got attacked and the Easter bunny took off his head and started swinging it at these kids. But this is what happened the other day.
Turn out his pitbull.
there was a female that was in the costume. She was 24 years old. And the juveniles, 13 and 14 years old, she was returning to the break room, and the juveniles confronted her, began to push, shove, and pull at her costume. Not
rude.
sure if she fought back because, the number one thing of a mascot, well, two things. You can't talk, and you can't have the head fall off.
Look at Cosmo the Cougar last year.
Once the head comes off, you just expose that you're not real.
The duck last
I don't
year.
think this 24-year-old woman is a professional mascot playing the Easter Bunny. I think she's just
trying to make a buck.
I think she's
She
just
probably
the poor
works in
soul.
radio and has an extra job.
She's
as a
probably
side
just
hustle.
the poor soul who works at the place she was at. And they're like, all right, Helena, you got to put it on this year. It's your job this year. You got to be the
Somebody
Easter
watch
Bunny.
Severance.
Now, the difference is that the people who dress up as Santa Claus, that is their profession. Like they live for that. They grow out.
They majored in it?
Well, like they grow out the beard and they probably do some manicurial stuff to make sure that they look good. They've been doing it for a while. I imagine maybe they have to keep their weight at a certain degree so they look like
keep
Santa.
eating.
Yeah, a little bit. You got to be a little bit plump, during the December season.
Porky.
You can't be a skinny Santa at the mall, taking kids as, orders for what they
Ozempic Santa.
want. Yeah. No one wants an Ozempic Santa. You want a
Other than
fat
the
Santa. Even Mrs. Claus wants a fat Santa. She's always telling Santa to eat.
Is that a poll question?
Mrs. Claus always wants.
Do you think Mrs. Claus would cheat on Santa if there was a skinnier?
Yeah. No, I imagine that Mrs. Claus likes Santa a little chunky. I mean, a lot of different movies. It's the famous lines: "Eat, Santa, eat."
Mrs. Claus is a chubby chaser, is what you're saying.
Whatever label you want to put on it, Jimmy, she likes a little meat on the bone.
So you're saying that fat likes fat?
Is Mrs. Claus fat? I mean, she ain't skinny. She ain't a model.
I've
Little junk in the
never,
trunk.
I've never in my lifetime looked at Mrs. Claus and thought, oh, yeah.
Hashtag peach emoji.
Yeah, only fans.
In the Scott Calvin in The Santa Claus, his wife is kind of hot in that movie.
She was good and Lost too.
And she ends up being Mrs. Claus in Santa Claus 2. In The Santa Claus 2. It's a great movie.
They're all
And
great.
Jack Frost comes in The Santa Claus 3. That's probably my favorite trio of Christmas movies.
We've
shout out Martin Short.
Yeah. Couple of emails here in the Equitable Bank inbox.
Guaranteed to be more.
I'm telling you, there is no good looking Easter Bunny costume. Like I saw this video and I was like, I like that golf course, but oh my God.
Was it scary or was it just like too cute?
It was
disgusting.
No, it wasn't disgusting. It just was.
They're just never cute.
Like they're not.
There wasn't a
cute.
charm for you?
You can't have a cute Easter Bunny costume.
I took 2 pictures on the bunny's lap in my life, and none of them were cute.
took a
I was
picture
cuter
on
than
the
both of
bunny's
them.
lap?
I was 3.
You never been on a bunny's lap?
No, hell no.
This is
Why
not a
not?
real bunny. They're small.
I was the type of
Religious affiliation or something like that?
I was the type of kid that killed the bunnies back in the day.
Yee.
Not kill them, but I would go around.
And
I
I'm the
would
one
chase
who's
them
been
around
punished?
The backyard and grab them.
And then you would
I wouldn't kill them. But
Go
I would-
back to
I
our
would-
serial
I would go
killer
and
discussion.
chase bunnies.
catch and release.
Oh, obviously, yeah. It's always catch and release.
Okay.
True huntsman.
Zach says
Throw the
nothing.
bunnies in the water.
Whoa.
Whoa. That's torture.
Well, no, you're saying catch and release. I thought you're taking them fishing.
No.
I'm Team Bunny here.
I'm not Team Bunny. I think it's weird that you take pictures of
I
with
also don't
bunnies and you
advocate
sit on
for
the lap of a bunny.
giving
no, I'm talking about the
you should also
animal.
not give a bunny as a gift on Easter.
Who does that? Who
There's
gives a
been people-
bunny for a gift on Easter?
There are people that do that.
Check your box next Monday.
Yeah, there's some weird Easter traditions. Some good Easter traditions. Some weird Easter traditions.
Oh, that one. Oh, I'm with you, boy. Boy, that tradition of where he rises.
No, that is not
It's
the
a
one.
bunny.
That is not the one I was referring to. That was the good tradition.
It's like Donnie
that I was
Darko.
referring to.
Hey, why does that have to happen every year on Easter? Can't they just can they change it up a little bit?
Well, they do change it up. The date's always different. Easter's not on the same day. It's not always on December 25th.
Some years it's on Master Sunday.
The result, my very anti-religious little friend
I'm
is,
not. I'm
is
not
always
that
the same.
Doesn't he
I'm
hate
not
Notre Dame?
anti-religious.
That's right. He does hate Notre Dame. Zach writes in, nothing in all of sports is as lame as one shining moment.
Okay, I don't know if it's lame, but it definitely isn't as big of a deal as some of these people make it out to be. Like, I'm not going to bed being like, man, that one shining moment was disappointing.
KG writes in, one bracket straight up and by the spread. That's how he does it to balance out everything. So good luck to him. Joey on last night's game that was won by the Gators with the worst last possession maybe in the history of college basketball championship games. From the time Houston got floored in the bonus with 13 minutes left, it seemed like their offense just went stagnant. Bad shots, turnovers, terrible shots killed them. There were like 3 straight possessions where they completely ignored Roberts. Just a weird offense down the stretch by Houston. Kind of their offensive identity all season long, or lack of identity when a game was tight.
They went tight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they went tight, and Florida went on a run, and they panicked, and Florida took advantage of it, and really just came down to turnovers and taking advantage of turnovers. That's just how Florida won the game.
Terry writes in about the missus. He said, Mrs. Claus isn't fat. She's just big boned.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's how
I'm not going to look up Mrs. Claus on my computer to get to look at a picture to
Just
get
type
a better
Pog
opinion.
in there.
What? No. Mrs. Claus is always safe for work.
Mm-hmm. It's Mrs. Claus.
Have you not heard of her? She's married to Santa.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned her in the movie. She's great.
She is great in that movie. She is. See, this one she's big, and this one she's bigger, but this one she's pretty skinny. It just depends. It depends on how you look at it. You know, is an old Mrs. Claus? Is it a younger Mrs. Claus?
Make sure you're on incognito. Just trust me.
Oh, look at this Mrs. Claus. This is the horror Mrs. Claus.
like scary.
There is a horror Mrs. Claus movie. It's Mrs. Claus.
Hold on. Is this
a creature
scary,
is stirring?
Is this a scary?
Yes.
What were you saying?
Scary movie or Skinamax?
No, this is a
whore. You said she is a whore.
No.
I thought he meant a hua.
No. Horror movie. It's an hour and 26 minutes long.
Santa's married to this hua. She's the worst.
It's called Mrs. Claus. A Creature is Stirring. It has 3.5 out of 10 stars on IMDb.
It's actually decent.
Directed by Troy Escamilla.
Oh, yes, of course.
Of course. Everybody knows
Scorsese.
Right up there with Scorsese, yes.
I bet the soundtrack is killer.
I don't want to watch that now. That's interesting. She's holding an axe in the.
I just became a lot more interested.
I bet she couldn't beat Sasquatch State.
There's another one. Look, there's another Halloween. Why is Mrs. Claus? You can buy a Halloween horror costume.
Horror, not hua.
Are you saying with an H or a W?
I don't know, man. It's hard for me to pronounce.
Well, because there's a big difference.
Yeah. Horror.
It's like the Santa hose or...
So you're saying Mrs. Claus is a whore?
No, I am not.
Okay.
Like in terror.
Let me look for promiscuous on the music thing here. Is that Nelly Furtado?
All right, back to the Easter Bunny. John says on the Equitable Bank inbox, you should talk to Connor about his backyard bunny problem. He might get a little bit of side work with your childhood.
I was a pretty damn good bunny hunter back in the day. I mean, did not kill him, but I could grab him.
Let me see if that website exists.
Bunnyhunter.com. Definitely don't look that up on a work computer.
Oh.
Promiscuous girl.
It is perhaps the domain you visit is on sale now.
Oh, you should buy that.
Probably not. No, I have
that and
no
daddyneedsatouchdown.com. Is that taken?
Do not know.
That'd be a great betting site.
Couple of stream comments. I can't read that, Captain, about Santa Claus. Theo says, invite Bigelow back on this week. Listeners deserve more pro wrestling media battles.
Who would cut the best promo in the Nebraska media corps? Like best pro wrestling promo.
Oh, I thought you meant like...
Really, you've not seen any of Adam Carricker's work.
Oh, no, I know. I've listened to Adam Carricker's. He had a really great interview with Goldberg. About a year ago.
Adam would he would cut the best.
Yeah.
Speaking of media, so I was reading an unfortunate thing in the athletic world yesterday. So Penn State, they have a longtime reporter who has been on the show numerous times, Aubrey Snyder, does a really good job covering Penn State football full time. She tweeted out yesterday that she will no longer be needed because The Athletic has made a decision not to cover Penn State football full time. Wow. which, I mean, Penn State's going to be right in the mix to win the national championship this year. You would think that program would have a lot of attention. But you know what I immediately thought? Because, The Athletic has gone through some things.
Yeah.
They've lost some really good, talented people on the football side that cover college football. I immediately thought, what happens to Mitch? If you're gonna cut the full-time reporter that's covering Penn State, I mean, Mitch is extremely talented.
Yeah.
Does a really, really good job trying to cover majority football and then drop in other sports. But is Mitch gonna be safe? And then I'm thinking, well, it could be because everything is kind of nowadays, and it's unfortunate because it doesn't matter how talented a writer you are. And I think Mitch is really, really talented as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
From his days when I first knew him at the DN to the World Herald, the ESPN, now to the Athletic, is everything is on how much clickage you have.
Yeah.
Because look at this. And this is kind of back to what I was leading into about the coverage of spring football. Is there are I'm pretty sure there are a large amount of Nebraska fans that have subscriptions to The Athletic. So anything Mitch writes, they're going to read.
Yeah.
It's just the same way like at the World Herald. And, you get it. I hear this a lot from Omaha fans. Hey, how come even men's basketball having a great year? How come they can't be, covered more? Hockey is a big one. Mike Patterson is now on the beat, and Mike on a home weekend, will cover one game. Like Friday night, he might be at a girls' basketball game or volleyball or a high school football game, but then he's there on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And you always get, well, why don't they cover Omaha hockey more?
Yeah.
Creighton basketball fans do the same thing. They always want more. I think the Creighton fan is very fortunate that John Walker is now on the beat.
Yeah.
I was bummed when John Niatawa went to have a life because he was the best to replace Piv, who was the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Joel, who is now covering the Thunder for the Daily Oklahoman, wasn't well received by the fan base. But John Walker does an incredible job. But Creighton fans, and I see it in my inbox, they'll be like, okay, how come we don't get more coverage? Well, their coverage is based on the number of clicks they get, and they can monitor that. So I don't know if the World Herald could get away with the whole time of just covering Nebraska football.
Sure.
But their Creighton clicks don't get as much as the story about the third string offensive lineman.
Yeah.
That's just the world that we live in right now. But I got to imagine the amount of people that subscribe to The Athletic and read Mitch's stories. Mitch is fine. Because that would be a loss. But man, Penn State doesn't need a
He'd be
full-time,
unemployed for about 10
Penn
seconds.
State doesn't need a full-time writer.
Honestly, I immediately when you see that a Big Ten program that has that much tradition, and you would assume that that much interest loses a writer like that, you immediately think of your own program and the writer who's associated with that. But Nebraska, and I've kind of seen, because I've been involved with Husker Max and writing for that kind of website. And
is that click based?
Yeah,
you get more money for.
Yes, that is click based. And so
who isn't writing for Husker Max?
I know. Well, they're pumping out a ton of content, and
good content as well.
Yeah, and I've seen some of the clicks that are consistently there, and like what other Husker, other Sports Illustrated sites are getting clicks pretty consistently. Nebraska clicks are at the very, very top, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. Colorado, their Sports Illustrated sites got a lot of clicks, and Nebraska's. That was kind of 1 and 2 there. And so, the interest for Nebraska football, whether it be for the TV ratings or for the articles or the clicks and everything like that, it's just a lot of people consume this type of content, whether it be literally in March and May and April, or whether it be in the middle of the season. I mean, it is something that people are consistently clicking on, and whether it be current stuff now or even revisionist history articles, like just talking about past Nebraska stuff, gets a lot of interest on those Husker Max sites. And so, I think it's just a testament to, there's no doubt in my mind that The Athletic and, Mitch in particularly, who is a great writer, who I do enjoy, reading some of his stuff. Like,
just don't ask Jacob.
Yeah. Jeez. Who
did he win though?
He'll be fine because the interest is there. I mean, this state, it's always going to be a football state, no matter how you spin it. It's always going to be about what the team is doing on the field on Saturdays. But that's weird. Penn State can't get enough clicks on the Athletic articles for them to justify them keeping a writer on full time. I mean, that is a team that Katron Allen's back. Nick Singleton's back. You got Drew Howler. He's back. That's going to be a potent Russian offense. You got a team that was very close to beating the national runner-up. I mean, they're one bad Drew Howler throw away, in a couple different plays from being in the national championship game against Ohio State.
I don't know now that they're owned by the New York Times, but they've lost some really talented writers that cover college football. She's kind of polarizing around here, but Nicole Auerbach left.
Yeah.
Go to NBC. Ari Wasserman left. They've had a couple of others that have gone on. Andy Staples was SI. But when I saw it, I was like, well, what happens to Mitch?
Yeah.
So hopefully
he'll be
Nebraska
okay.
fans are keeping Mitch Sherman employed on The Athletic.
Well, that's the main thing.
Because
if he writes it, click it, read it.
I'll give a little plug here. It's worth a subscription. It's not
I'd
that
say
expensive.
So
I have it.
I'd say so too.
And I'm cheap.
All right. When we come back, I still can't get over the very odd thing that happened yesterday morning on this show. That I wasn't able to comment on, but I got some thoughts on Kirsten Bernthal Booth stepping down as the volleyball coach at Creighton. We'll get into that when we come back. Brian Christopherson will join us at 9. 24/7 is killing it.
Yeah.
A lot of clicks on 24/7 articles. Hope you click on us. 1620 The Zone. All right, solid discussion on why Santa Claus is not attacked as much as the Easter Bunny is attacked. Flaky Jake writes in, people kill and eat rabbits. Nobody eats Santa Claus.
That's a great point. I didn't think of that.
That would be weird.
Yeah, that'd be called cannibalism and actually be quite the crime. End up in jail. So I think
Unless you're stranded in the mountains of South America after a plane crash.
Sure. I mean, there are moments in history where maybe it's acceptable for cannibalism.
Buckeye Ross writes in the Equitable Bank inbox. If you're looking for movies featuring a sinister Easter bunny, some options include Easter Bunny Massacre in 2021, Bunny Man in 2011 and its sequels, and the Easter segment from the anthology movie Holidays in 2016. The Easter Bunny Massacre in 2021 is a horror film centered around a killer Easter bunny, and you can find it on Peacock.
Isn't
more reason to keep your Peacock
I'm just trying to start the pit. I ain't got no time for the Easter Bunny Massacre.
So Steamboat Willie is now public domain, and so Mickey Mouse. Wait, listen. I'm pretty sure they're coming out with a Mickey Mouse horror movie, like a Steamboat Willie horror movie.
Wes Craven presents Steamboat
I bet
Willie?
that gets shut down by Disney.
No, but the public domain is now open.
You
And
can't
so-
you can't have Steamboat Willie. Like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. It already
It's
came
the
out.
boat trip from hell.
It already came. I think it's called Mousetrap.
Nice name. Really workshop that one.
Got a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. Mickey's Mousetrap. Yeah. So someone already did it. Came out. I just think it's funny
This October.
when you do horror movies that are of like funny, nice, caring characters. Like when you completely flip,
Michael Myers.
wasn't there an Abraham Lincoln vampire movie, like Abraham Lincoln the Vampire Slayer?
That was Buffy.
No, I'm pretty sure there was an.
It's a TV show too. Sarah Michelle Gellar and many of my generation's first crush.
Yeah, it was a 2012 film, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It got a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And somehow the world didn't end that year.
Let's bring back more movies like The Good Son.
It's a good movie. Macaulay Culkin never looked the same after it.
Yeah, that was a horror movie. Okay. So yesterday, about this time, we went to the press conference yesterday as Kirsten Bernthal Booth stepped down at 22 years as the volleyball coach at Creighton. Almost said Nebraska.
Which is in Nebraska.
Which is in Nebraska. Yes, it is. Thank you very much. I still can't get over how odd that was. It should have been a celebration.
It should have
of somebody who had an incredible career and built that program to be a top 10 program in all of college volleyball. And it should have been a happy day to have a send-off and a handoff. Okay?
Mhm.
We have an extremely talented assistant coach who has stuck around Omaha with his family in Creighton and now is being rewarded because he's now going to be the volleyball coach at Creighton, and that's Brian Rosen. But the whole thing, and when, look at I know the handoff and the relationship was different in Lincoln, but it became a celebration.
Yeah.
There's a tinge of sadness, but it's a celebration of what you've done for 25 years, John Cook, and now, hey, here we go. We're excited about the future. There was nothing yesterday as I watched that and listened to it that was not like, hey, this is a cool moment. It was painful from the jump.
Yeah.
And even more so, and I said this yesterday, it makes no sense to me, and I get angry thinking about it, and the optics of the whole damn thing were painful and were odd. Why was Coach Booth not sitting next to the athletic director? Why was the next head coach at Creighton in the middle and Kirsten was on the end when she should have been in the middle? That optic was very, very odd to me. And then just the whole thing, and the camera was on her, and it was uncomfortable. It was painful. It should not have been. It should have been a celebration. Then another step further is she mentioned that she was going to go to Love B. Have you gone to Love B's website since yesterday? So you would think someone that has some chops in the volleyball game and is well known, that you as a organization would celebrate that, right? You'd be like, she announced it. They should have announced something that we have this partnership. We can't wait for the new leadership to take pro volleyball from the Love B standpoint with Kirsten Bernthal Booth leading the way. It is an exciting day for us. There's nothing, right?
Nothing. There's
nothing.
Zero.
Nothing on their website.
There's 4 stories. None of them have to do with her going to the organization. Then there's another Love B in the news. Nothing down there as well. I mean, there's zero.
So then in Tom's column today in the World Herald, as he's talking about Coach Booth, he does reference the rocky relationship between the volleyball coach and the athletic director. So if you're a Creighton fan and a booster and you've watched the volleyball program become and knocking on the doorstep of being a Final Four team, are you not angry that the relationship deteriorated so much that your volleyball coach left? I mean, are you not angry today or asking for answers?
No, I'd be absolutely furious.
The whole thing yesterday was odd. It will remain odd. At some point, you'll move into a new era, and I think they will continue to be successful because Brian is a really, really good coach. But it didn't have to be that moment. It was not a celebration. There was sadness, but it was more painful to watch. And I can't believe that still unfolded yesterday. But back to the Love B. If one of the most respected college volleyball coaches, after 22 years in the sport, tells everybody where she's going, shouldn't the organization also celebrate that?
It should be a massive win for them. It should be. They should be like, holy crap! Here's someone who has built up one of the most respected volleyball programs from nothing into what it is now. She is now going to join us and help build. Let's be honest here. Love B is not, at least in Nebraska, the Love B team here in Omaha is not the premier team in Omaha, right? They need to build up and get ahead of the PVF and get ahead of this new league, which I think it'll be the Major League Volleyball, whatever the hell they'll call it. They need to build up and get ahead of them. This is a massive step towards doing that. And so I went on their website, nothing on the website, and I went on the Twitter. There's zero on their Twitter. They haven't tweeted anything. They haven't announced anything. So I don't know. And
looks like a missed. I mean, it's a win for them, but it's a missed opportunity
to market it.
They got nothing going on. I think they're getting ready for their final weekend, championship weekend, playoffs, whatever. That you've had somebody with that resume join your organization, and you don't, because she could have said it'll be announced at a later date and let Love B make a big announcement.
Yeah,
they're nothing.
Well, you bring up why wasn't she sitting in the middle? Why was the head coach sitting in the middle? I think of, why are they all sitting together? Like, it should have been a simple, Marcus Blossom goes up to the podium, introduces Kirsten Bernthal Booth. She goes up, she makes a great speech. Oh my God, I love it here. This has been incredible. Very similar to what she said in her remarks. And then the new coach, Brian Rosen, steps up to the podium, says his remarks. It just did not spotlight her career and what she's accomplished and her leaving enough, right? And also, too, I don't know. Maybe I'm being picky here. I did not like the comment of, we know that Brian is going to take this program to new heights, and it's going to take us farther. And maybe you can make the argument of, like, what is he supposed to say, right? Like, obviously, yeah, like he's got to instill that, he's got to show that he has confidence in his new coach. At the same time, it felt a little bit like I don't know, a little backhanded of, like, new heights. Like, they haven't been certain places with Kirsten Bernthal, Coach Booth as the coach.
I mean, it's okay to say.
I don't know.
I don't think that was a backhanded slap. Just to reassure. I mean,
it was just a little. It was for me. My opinion.
Yeah.
For me, in my opinion, and this is just me.
You think it was a backhand slap?
I don't know if it was a backhand slap, but I just didn't love that it was made. Right. I didn't love that it was, he's gonna take us to new places, like, I don't know. The person sitting to the left of him did some pretty damn good things. That's just how I view it. I don't know. I won't fully invest and say, oh, it was a backhand slap, but I don't know. It just rubbed me a little, for whatever reason, it rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. That's just me.
Painful.
That's just my opinion.
It was painful yesterday. Why is it like there should have been a celebration or it's time. Instead, it was like, no, this doesn't seem like it's time. This doesn't.
It didn't
this
at
doesn't-
all.
This doesn't seem like it's time at all. But now that, again, Tom referenced it in his column today, are people angry? And people are like, whoa, let's take a step back here. What's going on? What's going on? I don't. Maybe it's not that big enough of a sport that people would get out that outrage. I tell you, people that love Creighton volleyball, they love KBB, and they don't want that program to slip. And they also don't want their head coach, who's been there for 22 years and has built the program, where this past year they were in the Elite Eight, to say, you know what, I'm going to an organization that doesn't even celebrate her joining them. Just very, 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 very odd to me of everything that happened yesterday. And it's happened now in 48 hours.
It just, nothing about what occurred looked good. The dating all the way back to the Sunday at 7 p.m., the just shocking announcement happening, to them cutting to a press conference, basically 12 hours later, to them sitting there all together, having, it just wasn't, it did not properly, I don't think she was properly given the spotlight that she needed to celebrate her accomplishments. Okay. They missed the mark in that regard, and they missed the mark in honoring her and what the incredible job that she did. And then you're absolutely right. Love B missed the mark, capitalizing on the fact that something big happened.
If their investors are going to pursue her and think, man, is there a chance that we could pry her away from Creighton, and then not to celebrate it when she's already made it public? I mean, maybe her role hasn't been defined.
Yeah.
But
even if it hasn't been defined, you still can make an announcement. Hey,
yeah, I would have done social media.
Yeah, we're so happy to announce that, in our administration, former Creighton head volleyball coach Kirsten Berthal Booth is going to join us.
Yeah. All right, grab your popcorn, because there'll be a time here in the next couple of years where Mac is ready to retire. How will that transition go?
Hopefully better. Hopefully a lot better. Hopefully it's not a Sunday news dump.
All right. Brian Christopherson will join us coming up at 9. It's a football day in Lincoln. So we'll talk some football with
Every
BC.
day is a
Also
football
some
day in Lincoln.
basketball, because as Nebraska now starts to wade into the portal, and Double G has said, I'm out. I'm on. I preached loyalty to Rutgers. Then I went to Nebraska, and now I'm going to my third school. Hey, things happen. But what has to happen for Nebraska in the portal? We'll dive into that as well. We roll till 10 on 1620 The Zone. You guys might be a little bit more tech savvy than me, and of course, our listeners are much more tech savvy. Why does CBS not broadcast in 4K? So they've
No
stuck
clue.
with standard HD.
No clue.
I was looking for some, I have a 4K TV. I'd like some 4K,
I know.
but CBS doesn't do it. Why?
No, I do not know. I still have no idea why they don't do it. That's why I like the Peacock broadcast, because it's like the picture is just so much clearer. It's just so much more cleaner. Same thing with Amazon. Those Amazon pictures that you get, I mean, they are investing in their cameras and are investing in the quality of their picture. Like you would think, like in this day and age, like we are done with the 720p and we're done with standard stuff and we're doing more than just HD, that the picture could be every single billion-dollar TV company could invest in like the clearest picture you could possibly have. You would think. Jimmy?
I remember when HD was a big deal, so I have a hard time complaining, but I also don't have a 4K
Black and white
TV.
was out there.
We had 40 channels when we first got cable, and we loved it.
I'll tell you something right now. I've never lived a life without HD. I'm an
Wow.
HD kid. You can label me that. I'm an HD man. I'm a high definition kid.
So when you saw the TV trucks that said CBS Color, that didn't mean anything to you?
What is that? I mean, I didn't even know black and white existed until I was 10 years old.
I think somebody did Shadur Sanders dirty on ESPN right now in this Mel Kiper segment.
They compare him to LeBron?
Well, so Mel Kiper's mock draft has Shadur falling all the way to number 9 with the Saints. They just broke down like 3 throws from the Nebraska-Colorado game. There's one that they just showed was an out that was underthrown to Jimmy Horn.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Well,
like, are they knocking Shadur, or are they trying to show B-roll of him making throws? Because that was a bad throw in that game.
You know how this works. When they start talking positively about him, they show all the great highlights and everything he did.
When he pats
incredibly
the
well.
ball.
Yeah. Oh my God. That whole Twitter discussion was so pointless and so Twitter. It was absolutely incredible. Shout out Darius Slayton out of everybody who was standing up for Shadur Sanders. And then when they start talking about everything negatively, it's spikes in the ground, it's bad plays, and it's bad throws. They got a system over there at ESPN.
Yesterday, as the NFL draft is 2 weeks from Thursday. Speaking of quick side note, because you brought this up off the air the other day, Mel Kiper is really the only guy that has shown love for Ty Robinson.
Yeah.
As we get closer to the draft, Ty Robinson's mock is jumped all over the place from the second round to like the 6th round.
I have some bad news.
There is no consensus on Ty Robinson except for Mel Kiper, who has had him late in the 2nd round for a couple of mocks.
You're grimacing.
And he's up to mock 4.0, by the way.
He released a new mock draft today.
Did he knock Ty out of the 2nd round?
I don't think he's in there.
Is he even going to play football?
That would suck.
That would.
Here it is.
I like
April
him. He's
8th.
good.
Command up. I'm almost positive he's not in here. Let me double check. He is not. He is fallen out of the 2nd round in Mel Kiper Jr.'s mock draft.
So
his original spot.
Is Ty Robinson slipping?
His original spot was 57 to the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time he was taken in a 2nd round by
So
Mel
this is
Kiper.
a blessing.
That pick is now being taken by Isaiah Bond, who's a wide receiver out of Texas, who didn't have a great combine. So we'll see, but he's currently not in the 2nd round. And you're absolutely right. If you go to that mock draft database that we've talked about that kind of puts all the mocks together, he's up to 2. I've seen as far back as 7. Now, here's my thing. I think that 7th round like mock, and there was like 2 of them. I think that was more so like wishful thinking from like some fan sites being like, oh, we need like an offensive lineman. Maybe he'll drop all the way down there. But he could be a day 2 pick just as easily as he could be a day 3 pick. And it really just boils down to, man, it is so deep in terms of defensive linemen in this draft and just linemen in general. I mean, you're seeing guys like Kenneth Grant fall all the way, to the 2nd round. And then you'll see mock drafts where he's going in the 20s. You'll see a guy like Kelvin Banks Jr., who I've seen mock to the Bears at 10. I've seen him mock to your Kansas City Chiefs at 31. I mean, it's just kind of like when it comes to linemen, it's more so of a preference thing. Like someone's got to fall. You got to fall in love with a lineman. You got to find your match. you got to find your prom date. Somebody's got to fall in love with Ty. And if that happens, he's going to go really high.
This is a Levante David appreciation segment. Yesterday, Aaron Schatz SCHATZ, who is a chief analytics officer for a fantasy site, does some ESPN Plus. Plus, he's an ex-radio DJ. So we could have like Crash Davis over on the keg. He's a football expert.
Ball knower.
Yes. I think if you're in that world as a DJ, you know ball. So
we've all done it.
This was the tweet yesterday, and I'm going to then tell you what a quote tweet was.
Okay.
Aaron Schatz tweets out, A. Schatz NFL, by the way. I was playing around with some old defensive numbers and thought I would share this list of the most defeats in a season since 1994. And if you're wondering, if you're a ball knower, you know. Defeats add together turnovers, TFLs, and plays to prevent conversion on 3rd and 4th down. Most defeats in a season from 94 to 24. That's 30 years, youngin'. That's older than you are.
Yes.
Times were good here then.
The best year.
See, that's you back to the everything was better back in the day.
Did you not see what happened in Lincoln in the 90s?
Did you not
Football
see 72nd
and men's
Dodge
basketball? T.O. and Danny Nee, essentially the same person, were winning.
Essentially.
What would it be like if they would have flipped personalities?
For a day? Is it April Fool's joke?
No, like T.O., like Nancy was out there, and like Danny was, like buttoned up, didn't like speed to berries after games. Instead, that was T.O.
Yeah.
Everybody thought T.O. was running around the field in his little bike shorts, but then he would go outside of the gate, and the next thing you know, he'd be up at the bar at Barry's.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Coach, the red pants looking good. The usual.
That would have been wild if they would have.
Like Freaky Friday, though. Yeah.
But yeah, it was better back then.
It was. No, I know.
I mean, yeah.
For Nebraska football, obviously, yes.
That was the point.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that were going on in the 90s.
Bulls were winning.
Bulls were good.
The Bulls.
The Magics.
Cowboys were an actual
Orlando
confident
Magic were
football
pretty
team.
damn good.
But in 2012, J.J. Watt had 56 defeats as he was playing defensive end for the Houston Texans. I don't know if Josh Odson knows that. I should probably quote tweet Odson on this with J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
The second best season, and he actually has 6 of the top, or 2 of the top 6 seasons. J.J. Watt has J.J. Watt has 3 of the top 7 seasons. There's a guy named Levante David in 2013 had 50 defeats. 2014 had 42. So
he's darn good.
And remember, Luke Kuechly once won the Defensive Player of the Year over Levante David. Yeah. But J.J. Watt then quote tweeted.
Yeah.
He said, Levante David, criminally underrated. So as Levante David's career is coming to an end, he is going to be back as a Buck. I don't know that we're ever going to change this narrative that it's Levante David and he is underrated. If you watch, if you're a Buck fan, you definitely know.
Yeah.
And if this prevents him from going into Canton, we will riot.
It's absolutely insane that he only has 1 Pro Bowl and 1 All-Pro.
But it's going to take, for Levante David to be in Canton, it's going to take people like J.J. Watt to boost him.
It's going to be a mission to get him into the Hall of Fame. You're going to have multiple people banging on a drum saying, hey, look at the stats. How many 140 tackle seasons can you have and not be in Canton, Ohio?
And then Roger Craig while we're at it.
Like, we're talking about a guy that in his prime was having 145 tackles and 7 sacks, 21 tackles for loss. I mean, the guy has had double-digit tackles for loss in every single season except for 3 in his 17-year career.
And I'll make a
13-year career.
I'll make a case. I don't think he's underrated. I think he's a great player. But I get the narrative. You could make a case that he was underrated at Nebraska. Do you know that he is? I think he is still the 5th all-time leading tackler at Nebraska. And you know that he's the only person in the top 10 that played 2 years?
That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
That is crazy. 2 years.
But there's another part of Levante doesn't like the spotlight.
Yeah.
Do you think you could pick out Levante's voice from a press conference?
I mean, maybe, probably.
He just goes about his business.
I think he's one of the greatest NFL players that if you lined him up, I don't know how many NFL fans would really be able to like pick him out and be like, hey, that's Levante David, which is crazy.
And that's part of his personality, man. He just he He slipped into Lincoln last year, did a couple of things, and slipped right back out. That's just how he is. But he'll need the J.J. Watts of the world to talk nonstop. I hope J.J. Watt, now that he's going to be in the booth for games with Ian Eagle, I hope they do quite a few Bucks games so that he can talk about Levante David. Because J.J. Watt, whether Odson hates him or not, his voice does carry.
Massively.
And if he's talking about how great a player David is, there are other former players that are going to be out there speaking it into existence that Levante should be in Canton.
When it comes to Levante being in Canton, it's good that he's a player's player. It's good that players like him, because that's when we're making decisions here and who should be in Canton, Ohio, those are the guys that carry voices.
All right, coming up next will be Brian Christopherson on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to talk to our good friend from Husker 24/7, Brian Christopherson. Good morning, BC.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. Hey, let's. Matt and I were just talking about going to the break. There was a tweet yesterday, and another chance, any chance we get to praise Levante David, and we know in the NFL the narrative is, well, he's very underrated. Could you make a case that his career at Nebraska in 2 years was underrated as well? Or do you think it gets the proper respect that it deserved for a guy that is the 5th leading tackler of all time in Nebraska and the only guy in the top 5 that only played 2 years?
It's a good question. Whether it got the respect it deserved at the time or not, I think now we went back and revisited it and have decided, yeah, he was really good at Nebraska too. And I always have the game at the Big House in my head. It was a bad game for Nebraska. They lost, I think, 45-17, special teams disaster. But Levante David made like 1 billion tackles. And it was just an incredible thing to watch a player, sort of single-handedly affect a game the way he did and save explosives from happening. And I remember leaving the stadium like, this guy, he's special. He's like a rare breed to come through this program. So I think at that time I kind of thought that, but I could have never guessed, and I don't think most of us would have, that he would be this amazing in the NFL. Like, how could you? But I hope he gets the Hall call at some point. I heard you before I went on talking about guys like J.J. Watt, like having their voice heard about a player like him. And I do think that's going to be key, is like you get those guys who are his peers who played at that level who can say, don't look past this guy. Whatever you do, he's that great. And there's a clip, people can find it on there, of Levante when he was with the Bucks a few years back, and they were a bad team one year. And he's going off on his guys for their lack of effort in a game. They're losing like 56 to nothing. And just the passion he had on the sideline, it'll like send chills up your body. It really will. Like, just like a guy that cares that much when things were going that bad that day. So I always have the utmost respect for what he's all about.
Brian, open practice today in Lincoln. I know when I used to go to these things, I had an idea or a couple of players or coaches or things that I wanted to see or that I wanted to check out heading into this open practice today. What do you have on your mind in terms of things that you're looking for?
Yeah, I bounce around quite a bit, but I think I'm interested in that linebacker crew a little bit today, because I think Dvorak's one of the coaches talking, and I didn't really get to see much of Watson Trent the first time, so I was going to try to check him out. And I'd like to look at Desan and Willis McGahee too. And Matt Rule on Saturday was asked about those two players at the jack position, and I thought he had an interesting quote about that desire to have positionless players basically, on the defense, where it's like both those guys could be on the field at the same time. There's nothing to say they couldn't. Like, get your best 4 pass rushers out there and have guys really adapt to that mindset. Like, you're not just a specific label. You can do all these different things. So I guess I'd kind of look at some of the second level guys in that defense. And of course, you're still trying to sort through the secondary, just because there's like 26, 27 of them. We talk about that all the time, but just trying to get a hold on that a little bit better. Who's maybe pushing, and I don't know that we'll tell from our little glimpse, but I think they've got some guys who are second, third year defensive backs who are hungry and are, at least going to make it tougher on those frontline guys in the back end.
Hey, so not only does Coach Dvorak talk today, but Marcus Satterfield talks. And publicly got demoted as the OC. His salary keeps getting brought up as he's a full-time tight end coach. How is the dynamic, you think, with him now that he's not as an OC? He just is at tight ends, but then add this on, BC. He's recruiting really well for his position.
Yeah.
So what's the dynamic of Marcus Satterfield, where we maybe thought he's going to leave after his demotion, to he's here, his tight ends like him.
Yeah.
And the future tight ends like him as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. He had financial reasons to stay, but let's be honest, it's a humbling situation when it's so public, your job situation like that, and you do get demoted. And the fact that he just put his head down and said, "I'm going to do this, the best I can." I think it says a lot about him. I respect him for that, and I know Dana Holgerson does too. He's brought him up a few times as like he's a really good assistant coach and good with those tight ends, and I think it fits his mindset well. Coaching that particular group, he's got a really interesting position group, which helps matters, like because you've got the Heinrich Harburg story, and eventually you're going to get the Carter Nelson story there. And Luke Lindenmeyer, who everyone talks over, I would say is like one of the top 5 most guys I'd count on this roster in 25. And so that helps matters. But everyone can say, well, yeah, I mean, you look at the money. Of course he's here, and I could do that too. But it's not easy. There's a lot of pride that everybody has attached to their name. And when you had a tough go of it and someone else took your spot, it would be easy to not excel to your fullest in this new position he has. And I think you brought up a good point within the question. Those who pay attention to it know that he's put Nebraska on to some really good guys. He's really recruited Colorado well too. Like he's found some guys that, could be impact players. We'll see. Like Jordan Ochoa was like kind of one of those guys that he found. And so he's done the little detail stuff really well, and so hopefully his group can take off. But it will be interesting what he has to say about it and how he handles that today.
I think an incredibly interesting part about this defense is that you are, at least I am pretty confident in the bodies that they have, whether it be for the linebackers and that front 7 with, the talent that they have and the mixed experience that they have, but they're losing 24 and a half sacks from last season to this season. Do you think right now that this coaching staff knows who their sack guys are going to be? Do you think they know who their leading sack getter is going to be next season right now, or have an idea of it?
Maybe not the leader, but I bet they could guess maybe the top 3 options or so. I think McGahee's one of them. Obviously, McCullough is someone that could be that. We'll see how he adjusts to sort of a new role and having a home at that jack spot. But I always go back to McGahee. He played 117 snaps last season, and for that sample size, he got a lot out of it. Like, he only had like 1.5 TFLs and 1 sack, but he was one of those guys, and Javen Wright was like this a few years ago too, where he had like 4 or 5 like almost plays, and you could say, well, big deal, he didn't make them. But I look at a guy like that who was a true freshman, who he forced 2 fumbles, and then there were like 2 or 3 other examples where he almost had that strip sack type of play. And I think give that guy one more full off season, and you hope that can really blossom into something as a snap count goes up. And so I think a lot of people would probably predict, it's a good question, like McCullough, and he might be the guy. I think McGahee could be a threat to lead in that stat category for sure. And then you can't discount like Javen Wright or like Vincent Shavers, somebody from that second level. And I don't know Watson Trent yet, his situation, but Vincent Shavers would be a guy that I would put in the top 3 or 4 as well. Like if he can take what he had in that first half in the Pinstripe Bowl, bottle that up and bring that forward with that sort of ambition, he could definitely be a candidate as well.
Who's going to play inside in that linebacker core?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I want to kind of watch them, like how they're divvying it up. Like Watson Trent's really interesting to me. Just like if he's ready to just be a guy or a dude, and you know what I mean there. Like, is he going to be a player who he's a nice fit? It's okay, that's all right, or is he that guy who you look at his resume at Georgia Southern, and it's really eye-popping, actually. But now some people say, he's a little undersized, I think. Can he do it at the Big Ten? I know that him and McCullough have sort of bonded over, hey, we've got 1 year to do this. Let's take off. And so, I mean, obviously he's an option in that second level, but I'm interested like how they sort of stack those guys up and exactly where and how they move the guys around. Like I said, it goes back to sort of that positionless idea. Obviously, certain guys have spots that is their niche, but I think they do want to have a more adaptable defense this year in some ways. And so that's something I'm going to look at today. We'll see what we can get out of it in 20 minutes.
Was your confidence in the wide receiver room affected at all by the dismissal of Harley Gilmore? Why not?
Well, no, but it was disappointing, and I think he has I hope things come together for him outside the lines because I think he's got a world of talent. It was said in the media room, like that's really the only story we had about Harley Gilmore in the short time he was here was that people in Kentucky were disappointed when he left because they thought he had a lot of talent. And so that's what we knew, and we didn't ever get to advance that. So it's hard to go too far about it. I think he had some explosiveness to his game, and he's such a young guy at 18. I root for kids personally. Like, I know they make mistakes, and I hope they just figure it out. And, he finds his footing as a player because I think he does have a lot of talent. If there was one position where you said, well, that could happen and Nebraska can be okay, wide receiver would be probably one of the top ones because of, Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter. And you're hoping, we'll see Demetrius Bell at some point is going to pop back into this mix. And I'm curious if he can get his feet under him in time to make an impact as well as to go with the names we always talk about.
When and maybe this has been said and I didn't catch it. When do they expect him to be back 100%?
I don't know for sure on 100%. I know that he's been out there in the yellow jersey, and I think he's getting a lot closer. I knew that it was he was laboring a little bit longer than was hoped as of coming out of the winter. But it does seem like there's been some optimism in the last few weeks, and I know he put out a post on social media which suggested it's around the corner. So he's just an interesting name because he was one of the better stories of the spring as far as a personal guy advancing himself within the program. And then he had that injury in the spring game. And Matt Rule himself said in a couple interviews, there's times he was answering why he doesn't have a spring game, and people can think whatever on that. But he's like, yeah, I was thinking about it'd be nice to have Demetrius out there right now. So obviously he thought this guy's got a little something to him where he can be a factor. So the question is, after you've been out a year, can you get up to full speed and be the same guy you were? So hopefully he can be.
Obviously last year's freshman that just kind of came out of nowhere was Ja'Cory Barney. And I think that Cortez Mills, and him being so highly rated and coming from the same area as Barney has been labeled as, he could be the next Ja'Cory Barney in terms of popping as a freshman, which I think is a little unfair because it's not overly common just to pop on the scene like that, right? I mean, it's a high level jump that you're taking when you're going from high school to the Big Ten. But your read on him as a prospect is that something that you legitimately think that he could accomplish, that right away he could step out of the field and be a game changer like Barney was last year?
I've heard he's having a good spring. I think he's got a deeper position group to deal with this year.
Yeah.
But the comparison with Barney, I think, comes in that they have the same sort of mindset. But I like the way you phrased the question because you should never just fly over the fact if a guy as a true freshman can work his way onto the field and how challenging that is and specific to him to have that mindset and ability to get there. So, he's got his own journey that he's taken to this point, but I do think it is useful to all those guys. We talked about McGahee and Shavers within this conversation where it's these are guys who grew up in an area you did, experience some of the same stuff you did, and are getting a taste of a different culture at the same time, and that you can grow together. I do think there's use in that, but he's got a ton of talent. And I think from what I've heard, people have had a really good first impression of him. We'll stop it there without going too far. And I think though, Matt, that Ja'Cory, I got a couple of questions on the radio, like in December, January. It's like, well, we're not even talking about Ja'Cory Barney, right? We're talking about all these new guys. And I do feel like in the first part of spring, you've heard Barney in a spring where coaches are not naming names a lot. He's popped up a few times where it's like he's still there, and he's building, and he's got a determination about him. So I think he has sort of reminded. Now, you didn't remind coaches, but I think to everybody else, it's like, okay, get him back into the front of that conversation again. Let's not forget about what he did.
Hey, let's shift to basketball to get you out of here. Fred Hoiberg said this guy is going to flourish. He's a great fit with our system. That was Gavin Griffiths. And he said that at the Big Ten Media Days when he first committed, you would think the way that he shoots would be a good fit, help with the spacing. But he became a guy that was sitting at the end of the bench, and now he's in the portal. What do you think happened from the transition to Rutgers thinking, all right, small sample size, last 3 weeks, he shot it really well from beyond the arc, to he just very rarely played once we hit the new year?
Yeah, just a guy who, I think maybe going down just a slight level could help him out, get his confidence back, because he was like a top 100 recruit, and he is a really good shooter. And I think they were hopeful that was going to take off. But if you lose a little confidence there, and you're shooting in that like 25 to 30% range, and you don't quite have your skill set as advanced at some other spots as other guys, you get lost. And that's what happened this year. I mean, he had a chance, I think, in December to maybe put himself like in the rotation conversation. He missed out on that. And then once you get to like January, February, it's like you're not always stuck with what you have, but it's kind of like these are the 8 to 10 you're going with, and this guy's 11th or 12th, and it's hard then. So I wish him the best. I think probably is just the deal where Nebraska knows there's some high-end basketball or shooting ability in that guy, and hopefully he finds it at his next stop. But it was going to be tough, I think, going forward, especially with what they're doing with the roster to get on the court. But so that one was not unexpected, I don't think. Credit to him, though. He waited it out till after the crown and all that stuff. So I kind of appreciate that.
Berke. So let's go back to Sunday. Very active on the bench, by the way. Like, he was engaged in the game, but his minutes were not very high. Do you think they see a future for him in this program?
I'm going to go with what Fred has said from a few weeks ago until I hear otherwise, and we'll see where that goes. But he's mentioned him as a guy they expect to come back. Now, I know people, and Schaefer and I were talking about this on a podcast the other day, like with Oogie from Central Michigan coming in. He's a big 6'10" guy, and so you start to ponder questions like that. I do think Fred has seen. I know this. Berke behind the scenes has shot it a lot better than he has in the games. And so there's that, like, we got to just pull this out of this guy, because if he could get a little bit more consistent shooting it, he really can do a lot of little things. I haven't given up on him because I always think of like those 5 to 10 minutes, and maybe this is too much on just a snapshot, but against like St. Mary's, where it's like, there it is. That's the guy like doing all that little stuff. And if he can harness that in the off season with whatever direction he goes, there's still some good basketball in him. So I think he could still be part of it, but he's gonna have to get more consistent shooting it.
If he can shoot the three, then he's got a roll. BC, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That's Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. All right, quick break. Come back. Crossovers coming up at the top of the hour. The Nova Scotia boys, who stayed up until 9:50 to watch tip-off last night. The Mountain Time Zone continues to be the champion.
It's the best. I was telling Matt this yesterday.
Literally, like I was leaving the office, and Jimmy was like, Mountain Time Zone, undefeated forever. I'm like,
if you're the Denver Nuggets and you need somebody in your organization,
they need a win.
They do. I can help.
The population in the Eastern Time Zone, I know you got all the population. Your time zone for watching sports, your time is done.
I'm sick and tired
your time
of hearing
is done.
how great the Eastern Time Zone is. Screw 'em!
We're back with more Gary and Matt after this. Sad news in the food world for pizza. Sortino's Pizza will be closing May 31st, which probably there are a lot of people in this city that have memories of Sortino's Pizza. So Johnny Sortino's closing at the end of May. Well, one door closes, another opens. Hello. Jamarcus Lawrence is back at Nebraska. So Jamarcus Lawrence, who they didn't see a role for on this past season after playing on the NCAA tournament team, and the fact that Nebraska needs a point guard, Jamarcus Lawrence leaves after playing here for 2 years. He goes to Rhode Island. He is there for 1 year. Jamarcus Lawrence, who once he went into the portal, Nebraska immediately contacted him. And Jamarcus Lawrence has just put on his Instagram, "I'm back."
That's the
so
gift.
Jamarcus Lawrence is coming back to Nebraska, and this will drive people wild in the day and age of the portal. That you can leave, go somewhere else, come back, and he will come back after averaging 9.9 points per game while shooting 38% from three-point range for the Rams.
Hey,
could have him back.
Free agency.
Because remember, you have Wooster and Ulis are out of eligibility.
Yeah.
Nebraska desperately needs a point guard, guy that's familiar with the landscape, and
Veteran
now
point guard.
he is back. Do you think he went and made more at Rhode Island than he is making coming back to Nebraska?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I think it would. My prediction would be
Who
it
needs
would,
who
it would
more?
be the same amount, or maybe he made more at Rhode Island. Is my guess, because I would assume that for Rhode Island, getting Jamarcus Lawrence was a pretty big get. Getting a Big Ten point guard who started 23 games the previous season, I would assume that they unloaded a decent amount of their NIL funds in order to grab a guy like that. So probably equal to or greater than, if I had to guess.
How about the offseason for Nebraska basketball? Their two biggest pickups are two guys that are already here. One, Rink Mast, is now healthy and can play, and Jamarcus Lawrence is coming back.
They're getting the band back together.
This is so Nebraska basketball.
That would be resourceful.
But it does make sense. So
can we get Casey back too? I mean, have him stop playing for the Mad Ants? Hey, he's got one more year of eligibility.
You know
right?
what? I would just sue the NCAA.
Why not? Everybody's doing it, and everybody's successful at it.
We have lawyers here.
Yeah.
I think Josh Strite for Omaha should sue the NCAA, see if he can get an extra year.
Why not?
At North Dakota State. I mean, claim something happened in Fargo and he should get an extra year.
It was too cold, and it affected my ability to play basketball in Fargo, North Dakota.
I mean,
and it made me unhappy, and so I need another year to play.
Shield Center has a retractable roof.
Nowadays, I mean, what are they going to do if you just show up and you're on the roster?
What are
they going to kick you out of the NCAA?
That is a great. Can you imagine that if just like LeBron James just showed up on Ohio State's bench? Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna get someone to move me out?
So this is an Nebraska basketball has had a nice little stretch here, because you should not be surprised that Gavin Griffiths did not work out at Nebraska. And I was not on the GG train from the standpoint of what Fred was trying to sell. I didn't see at Rutgers. He was trying to sell hope. Fred doesn't do really well in selling the hope. He sells the substance, and I'm going to get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Because Nebraska fell in love, and he was one of those that, it kind of, okay, we need a guy. He's a guy that's available. Instead of, does he really fit what we need, and has he done what we've needed? Because he only shot 29% at Rutgers from beyond the arc. And Nebraska, I think, fell in love with his last 3 weeks when he was about 37%, which they would take. But that was a 3-week stretch. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised it didn't work out here. And I don't know if he got into the doghouse or whatever, but he did hang around. He didn't put his name into the portal at mid-semester.
Yeah.
He wasn't even the human victory cigar. He was just a guy that came into the game at some point and you went, okay. I think Fred, in the new age of portal, where he can't have a guy sit out for a year in Ames and then get incorporated into their system, I think Fred does better with mid-major guys trying to prove a point and guys that he has a previous relationship with. Like Sanford, I think will be good at Nebraska because Nebraska already recruited him. They knew him before he went to Iowa. But I think guys that are mercenaries or reclamation projects from fellow Power 5 programs, they don't work under Fred.
They haven't.
So look at Rink Mast comes from the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm telling guys that leave the Missouri Valley Conference, for the most part, pan out when they make the jump up.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Williams came from a mid-major.
Yeah.
Okay, panned out. Juwan Gary, I guess you could say Alabama, but Juwan Gary wasn't playing much at Alabama.
No.
But look at this. So you get Sanford, you get a 6'10"er, Oogie, coming from a mid-major.
Yeah.
Now you get a guy that you're familiar with, so you know his skill set. And I think an important thing for Nebraska next year is if you have guys, use them where their strengths are. Don't take a big man and put him out on the three-point arc, and I have a better shot of shooting threes from section 213 than Braxton Mia does from 18 feet away.
Yeah.
You got to use them the right way.
Well, that and like you can kind of go down the history of Braxton Mia came from a Power 5, didn't work out, right? Burke Buchton Joe came from a previous Power 5 conference. It so far has not worked out. They haven't been able to look at these guys and say, and like look at Connor Esigian too. Connor Esigian did not have a good year at Wisconsin. Last season, he did not. And so the idea was they bring in these three guys who have showed potential from the Power 5, and you're hoping that you can develop them and get them better. It didn't really work out that way. I mean, the best one out of the three was Esigian, who definitely came on a little bit more, more so in the crown and had his moments. But heck, when it mattered the most, he went 0 for 11 from the field. We don't really, have to go too deep into that. But like, look at a guy that you didn't mention, Josiah Alec. He didn't come from Power 5. He worked out pretty damn well.
Kansas City, New Mexico in here.
Filled out
Sam
a role.
Griesel.
I would say that Sam Griesel's another good one. You look at Andrew Morgan, who, yes, he had his struggles on the defensive end, but coming from a mid-major, at points was their best offensive option, like on this team. I mean, it has been pretty clear that mid-major guys who have done it at a high level, they've been able to kind of pick up with the speed of the next level that they're at and transition their game into the higher level. We haven't seen really the development of other Power 5 guys onto this team. I do think Price Sanford is different, though, because Price Sanford wasn't a guy who was only playing 10 minutes or who had lost a role or who might have fallen a bit out of favor with Iowa. He was playing 25 minutes a game. I mean, he was a key contributor on that team, and he was a guy that they went to for a lot of minutes, and he already has a skill that you need. He already is a high-level three-point shooter, 40% from the field, right? So it's like he's got the skill, he's got the experience, he's played 25 minutes a game. It's almost as if this isn't a proven mid-major guy. You've got a proven Power 5 guy, which is a whole other level. So I think that addition is different from the other Power 5 guys that they've gotten in the past. But you're right. He's done this team historically has done well with the mid-major dudes, and they've been able to encourage them and give them confidence to play what their game was at the lower level at a higher level.
Jamarcus Lawrence also shot 39% from three-point range in his 31 games that he started every single game at Rhode Island. So you got your point guard. You're taking care of that spot.
Yeah. It's a good get. I mean, it's a guy who knows the system too.
I think it's more than just a good get. I think for Nebraska, now it probably won't resonate outside of the GBRs. It's a great get because you have to solidify that position and somebody that knows your offense.
Yes.
So also because the way that they are piecing together the roster for 25-26, they're piecing it together that makes more sense, that mimics the last year that Lawrence was here. So he's coming in to play point guard in a system that is built on spacing and shooters instead of trying to play point guard with guys that don't necessarily all fit together. So it's a huge bonus to get Jamarcus Lawrence to come back and be your starting point guard because he's going to be the starter. I mean, he ain't moving back to the 402 and rekindling old relationships with co-eds if he ain't starting every single game. I mean, that's just how it is. I wouldn't do that.
Well,
that would be poor advice. But he had a nice, you know what? He had a nice year last year running the point where I watched a handful of Rhode Island games.
Sure.
He didn't try and do too much. And I think knowing that he won't be a yo-yo, because I thought one day they'd like him, the other day they wouldn't 2 years ago, that they're like, it's your team.
Yeah.
It's your job.
Well,
you're the point guard.
And we do have to remember that there was a role switch for Jamarcus in his last year in Nebraska, that he went from being that starting point guard to then being the spark plug off the bench. And I think that this is, though, a very different situation where he's going to step in and be not only just the point guard, but he will be an option as well in terms of scoring on offense. And I think that, with another year of experience of holding on to the ball and being the guy at Rhode Island, I think that will give him, that hopefully has improved him and that has developed him as a better point guard. And then you got to look at, man, the spacing is going to be great. The spacing is going to be really good on the floor. You're going to have Sanford. You're going to have Esijan. You're going to have Mask. Oogie isn't, a knockdown three-point shooter.
Leave Oogie around the rim. Draw fouls, get to the free throw line. Thank you.
They're going to be able to play a pretty pure 4-out, 1-in, and do a lot of really creative stuff on the offensive end. And you bring in a guy who's very familiar with what they're trying to do.
We're back. Football is on the back burner. 3 teams in the NCAA tournament next year. I just checked.
That happened.
CJ Wilcher will not be able to return.
Damn. Can Josiah go ahead and come back from New Zealand?
I don't know. Can he get back into the country? He was over, playing pro basketball.
I know.
CJ Wilcher, 4.3 points per game. He only played 10 minutes per game at Texas A&M.
I watched a couple of Texas A&M games, and it would just I'd be looking for him, and I couldn't find him.
He'll always have the cowboy hat. He'll always have that graphic, and he'll also have being part of the Colt for a year. We'll come back and we'll put a wrap on this Tuesday edition. But Jamarcus Lawrence is back. Welcome to the wonderful wild, wild west of the portal.
Yeah.
Some people say you can't go back home again.
Not at Nebraska.
No, sometimes when you're 18 and you go off to college, your parents say, don't come back. But Jamarcus Lawrence at 22, they said, please.
The prodigal son has returned.
Please. Boy, now I'm going to have to watch
Rhode Island games?
No. I'm going to go back and watch the game in Bloomington last year where he went 19-6-5 and Casey went crazy in that game and Nebraska blew out Indiana.
That was a good one.
We are back, baby.
So back.
We are back. I think Omaha, Creighton, and Nebraska will all make the NCAA tournament next year.
Oh, the season just ended, Gary.
We're
Can we
back.
take a break?
We're back.
Can we take a break
All
for
3
2
will
seconds?
wear white in round 1.
Literally just ended like 12 hours ago.
I'll take a break here in a little bit when we watch some football video from Lincoln.
12 hours ago, Houston was turning the ball over. Now we're making the tournament next year?
Houston is old school. Florida, hey, what have you done for me lately? It's Tuesday. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. Hey, last night, as the game got tight, and at the end of the game, CBS didn't show Nance at all, did they?
I didn't see Nance. No,
They
did
showed
do
him
that.
one time with his grandson, and that was early in the game. But like late in the game, all the crowd shots, because, they have a tendency to go to crowd shots at key moments. There was no Jim Nance sighting.
So
They did
CBS
that-
knew before we did.
They did that very
Inside job.
They did that very, very nice pregame thing on him, though. Of they did the feature about how he gets so nervous during Houston basketball games and all that stuff. I thought I did make a comment to a friend. I was like, I wonder if Jim Nance will be today's Taylor Swift, and they'll show him an overabundance
Dating a
amount of
tight end.
times. No, not dating a tight end.
That would be awkward.
That'd be very awkward. His grandson. But yeah, no, didn't get showed a lot. But we'll see plenty and hear plenty of Jim Nance this weekend, baby. A tradition unlike
You're gonna go into Tony Romo.
any other.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Jim, I don't know. This putt, it's moving left to right. He's got to be careful.
So did CBS protect Jim Nance? Should they have shown him at the end of the game? Should he have been in one of the crowd shots?
Can you imagine? Jim Nance looks like he's been through like a weekend in Vegas.
Hey,
Hair frizzled
and you know
up,
what? And I would
tears running down the face.
I already am a fan. I'd be even more of a fan
He
if
looked
they
like a
showed
wreck.
him and he looked like a wreck, because he is a fan. He is a fan of Houston. I mean, the great story of he was the PA guy during Phi Slamma Jamma. That's unbelievable connection to his alma mater. But yeah, they didn't show him much late in the game.
They didn't.
But there are two things that they showed that I loved. One, I think in this day and age of a lot more sports on TV and streaming, is the music in and out of breaks
They did a good job last
has
night.
gotten better.
I agree.
I don't care if it's CBS or Fox or NBC or some of the streamers, even ESPN. The music selections, which sometimes can be troll jobs or they can just be bangers at the right time. Whoever is in the production part of the music in sports television these days, give them an Emmy, because they are doing a hell of a job.
I like it sometimes like it'll be the middle of the first half. It'll be like the under 8 time out of the first half, and they'll put on some like smooth 70s music heading into break, like, hey, we're just chilling out playing basketball. But then like when you get into the deeper part of the game, I feel like as the game goes on and on, you get more rap and rap. You get closer to rap every time there's a commercial break.
That's why I can't wait for the NBA to come back on NBC. Not only the great opens that you used to have, but NBC, not just Round Ball Rock, they were known for some great in and out music.
They would. I remember when
Look what they do with Sunday Night Football.
When Flo Rida was a big deal.
Who? Flo Rida?
Flo Rida.
They won last night.
Flo Rida was a big deal.
Was a big deal.
Performed
Like
at Warner Park on the right field berm.
Like in 2015, 16, 17, like he would be a mainstay of the ESPN in and out of breaks.
Flo Rida is out?
Flo Rida definitely
Can't do another
doesn't
poll
have-
today. Ooh, speaking of.
Flo Rida does not have the pull he used to have.
Are you sure?
know? I don't think he's that guy, and as much as he used to be. He used to be the
boys in
dude.
the 305 are going to rise up.
He used to be the dude. He's still good. I still
Jeff
like
Lebowski.
I still like Flo Rida. But he's not like a you don't hear him everywhere. It's all Sabrina Carpenter now.
People like espresso.
I mean,
Wakes you up.
Flo and Big Boy are out on tour.
They're on tour right now?
Yeah.
I would go and see Flo Rida. Just down, maybe I'm just out of touch with the kids.
By the way, no, overwhelmingly would Mrs. Claus cheat on Santa if he were younger and thinner. 78% said no.
See?
Oh.
She's loyal.
Hey, fat like fat. The other thing about music, so I do appreciate the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And I'm sorry, I don't recall seeing the women's basketball tournament national anthems. So they always have on the Saturday game, they have one person from each of the 4 schools, and then they do the national anthem together. Not easy to pull off. But last night, what they did to have the Air Force Master Sergeant, his name is Robert Carter. He took people to church last night.
Take
in
that,
that
Hozier.
anthem. Oh, hello. But I'm glad that they don't bring in a celebrity because celebrities in those stages have a chance to have a tendency to overdo the anthem.
Fergie.
The Master Sergeant last night.
All-Star game last year.
He sang it, and he took us to church, and I'm like, okay, let's don't overthink things here. Thank you very much.
I think a celebrity.
Chris
anthem
Stapleton was in the building if he went down too.
That was my that's my thing.
Yeah.
What was he doing there?
Well, he was singing the songs the other night by the tower, which a lot of homeless people have done that in the past. He's not, but you've been down there.
I haven't.
Not you, him.
I have a tendency to avoid places where the homeless congregate, just because I think I would be imposing on them by being in their space.
You don't want to get in their way.
Yeah.
Is that why you don't want to be around homeless people? You don't want to impede on them?
Well, you don't go to people's houses and just invite yourself.
When I go out to visit
I do. I invite
when I go
myself to
visit my
people's
brother
houses.
in Southern California, I don't go on the 10 and get to 10th City, okay? Because I'd be imposing. It's their space.
I like how Jimmy made a reference to you imposing on homeless people as, Matt, you don't go to other people's houses. Well, the point is that they're not in houses.
This
mean,
is
you're
their
not going to
homes.
their
Who am I to
house.
judge? I'm not here
They're
to judge what people.
homeless. They
But
don't
is
have
their
a house.
home?
No,
I
it's
don't have a
not.
house. I'm not
It's not
homeless.
a home. They don't have a roof.
I mean, the I-35 bridge, and anyway.
It's very that's high etiquette of you. High etiquette of you to not impose on homeless people.
Your home is wherever you put your head.
Thank you. This is your home now.
I guess. That and my broken bed is my home.
Why is your bed broken?
It's
Birthday weekend.
I did not
Hell
put
yes.
it together properly. It just
Are you
keeps
going to have
falling
to
apart.
bring somebody in?
I legitimately think that at some point I might have to just
Call it
buy
the bullpen?
I might have to buy a new bed frame. I might have to
Wait.
re-
Whoa.
Whoa,
no,
yeah.
I don't think that's...
You just put it together wrong. It can be fixed.
I tried fixing it, and it's just.
get
not-
somebody that's one with the tools.
The bolt won't come out. We've been through this process. I might have to reinvest. It's tough. It's real. One side of the bed is very stable, and one side of the bed is very crackly.
Ain't that
if
a
you will.
metaphor if I've ever heard one?
Just because somebody alerted me to this about Jamarcus Lawrence coming back to Nebraska. Do we talk enough about Boogie Coleman? The
Jerron Coleman, former
who-
Ball State guy.
Not only once,
And
but twice. And then he left again.
Ball State to Missouri, back to Ball State, right?
Yep. And then he finished at Nebraska last year.
It was really funny. I was working with a guy at the time who his buddy went to Ball State and watched Boogie Coleman play. Then my buddy who was at Missouri, Boogie Coleman goes to Missouri. He's like, yeah, my friend was like, watch out, here comes Boogie. And then he went back to Ball State. And then my friend gets a job at Nebraska covering at 10-11. Guess who follows him from Ball State over to Nebraska? Boogie Coleman. He's like, I cannot escape this guy. He's like, this guy's been playing college basketball for 5 years. And I know where he's been every step of the way.
College is fun.
We do forget about Boogie Coleman. I remember I told somebody one
Well,
time, I go, Boogie Coleman is going to...
Fred certainly forgot about him.
I go, Boogie Coleman is going to go... I swear to God, I said this. Boogie Coleman is going to look really good against like your mid-major teams, and then he's going to take a really long three against Michigan State, miss it, and you'll never see him again. And that is literally exactly what happened. That exact instance happened. It's tough. Forget about Boogie was a big guard, though. I remember he played Doan. I announced him playing Doan, and he just looked like the most dominant basketball. He looked like Wilt in his prime.
He was what, about 6'5"?
Yeah. But he was a
little
guard.
taller.
Fred did forget about Boogie.
I mean, that's kind of BS what Jamarcus Lawrence just did.
What do you mean?
Today is media availability for football, and all of a sudden Jamarcus comes back.
Nobody's going to talk
There's
about it.
Hoiberg trying to steal everything.
Yeah, that's rude.
Oh, I mean, now John Rothstein has jumped on the bandwagon. What'd you say? He has him preseason 44th?
44th.
What
they're
does he
sixth
have? What
now.
does he have Creighton?
I think they're in.
Creighton's a top 25 team.
He has Creighton at 22.
Okay.
He's got their projected starting lineup: Fedor, Josh Dix, Jason Green, Jackson McAndrew, Owen Freeman.
Okay. Rothstein, because he has jumped on the Nebraska bandwagon, he has his starting five as Lawrence, Essegian, Sanford, Buchton gel, and Mast. Fred Hoiberg could have a potential bubble team lurking for 2026. I'm here to tell you, Mr. Rothstein, that he better have an NCAA team.
This is 44 amongst Power Fives is around bubblicious area.
I don't know.
Be an 11 seed essentially.
That'd be an interesting lineup. I don't think that'll be the starting five.
I don't think it will
when we get to
either.
the exhibition game against BYU. But thanks, Mr. Rothstein, for playing. And you only have like 23 more days before you get to sleep.
Oh, wow. Mr. Rothstein with the disrespect, too.
He does that.
Cale Jacobson not on his projected bench. Where's Cale?
Maybe he knows Drake.
I don't know. I said Drake as a joke, but
Eric Henderson likes them Nebraska kids. Bryson Ball went from South Dakota State. He's going to play for Hendo over Drake. Could a Nebraskan be playing for Omaha announced this week?
All
right.
That's here.
Who knows? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm speculating. All right.
That's all I do.
Crossover is coming up next in a world where the Gator boys are back. And we'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. with reaction from speaks that'll be happening in Lincoln around football. We're almost to football. When we try to get to football, Jamarcus Lawrence comes back.
Pulls a Michael Jordan.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Crossover is coming up next on 1620 Zone.